16 teams in the Stanley Cup. 12 days ago, there were 16 teams in the Stanley Cup tournament. Now 5 are gone, including the defending champions. The Calgary Flames went out in a blaze of controversy in Los Angeles on Saturday. Doug Gilmour and the Flames thought they had the winner in overtime against the Kings, but it was disallowed. In the second overtime period, Mike Krushelnyski delivered the Kings to a 4-2 series win, and the Flames were out. In Montreal last night, the Canadiens dispatched the Buffalo Sabres 4-2 on the winning goal in Game 6 from Claude Lemieux. At Landover, Maryland, Dino Ciccarelli didn't score for Washington, but John Druce did. The winner as the Caps sidelined New Jersey. Only one Wales Conference first-round series is undecided. Kevin Dineen's overtime goal pushed Hartford and Boston to Game 7. 11 teams are left. After tonight, there will be 9.
Hockey Night in Canada on CBC.
Here's a chance for Richer. In front, score! Scoring going in there, he's centered it, Olczyk scores! Olczyk! Messier with that great speed! Messier scored! Klima got through there, he's right in! Oh, the save now! Coming in, side of the net, center, Curry! Power play goal, just like that!
Experience has helped push this Jets-Oilers series to the limit. The experience of playoff veterans like Mark Messier, who was part of a big Oiler attack in the first period in Winnipeg on Saturday. After trailing Game 6, the Jets, with a 3-2 series lead, had visions of ending it when Doug Evans scored to tie the game at 3. But then another of the Oilers' playoff veterans came through. Jari Kurri's precision shot was the winner to tie the series at 3. The goal sent Bob Murdoch and the Jets on the road, and John Muckler and the Oilers home to Edmonton to finish it in Game 7 of this Smythe Division semifinal series on Molson Hockey Night in Canada on CBC.
Brought to you by Molson Canadian, what beer's all about. By Ford of Canada, where quality is more than a commitment, quality is job one. By Esso, going that extra mile. And by Pepsi, it's got what it takes.
In the Stanley Cup playoffs, it gets no more exciting than a 7th and deciding game. So close have the Jets and Oilers been, it's appropriate this series should be decided in that manner. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Northlands Coliseum and to Molson Hockey Night in Canada on CBC as our coverage of the Stanley Cup playoffs continues. When the Jets led this series 3-1, they were not thinking of the 7th game, but now the Oilers have come back from the brink and they have a chance to become just the 7th team in the history of the Stanley Cup playoffs to erase a 3-1 deficit and claim a series. In the Oiler locker room right now, ready to step onto the ice at Northlands Coliseum, are players with 4 Stanley Cup rings. The Jets have nobody with that sort of experience, but they do have an unshakable belief that they can win even game number 7 on the road. It'll be a surprise if this deciding game is not as close as the previous 6 in this series have been. They've scored almost the same number of goals. Their shooting percentages are almost dead even. They each have 1 win in overtime. It all adds up to 3 wins apiece. And Game 7 tonight at Northlands Coliseum. And we welcome Don Cherry and Ron McLean.
Okay, Scott, Don Cherry and an Oiler fan, Rick, who's right in between, and a whole bunch of Winnipeg Jet and Edmonton Oilers supporters. Don, you've been in a 7th game. What's the feeling?
Well, I'll tell you, I've been there before, whether it's the finals or it's the first series. It's like when you're at Christmas time, you get that feeling. I'll tell you, the Winnipeg, hey, kid, get your hand up there. All right, what they have to do, the momentum is with Edmonton right now. They got to watch Winnipeg's got to get that first goal. If Edmonton gets that first goal, look out, they're really going to roll.
Somebody thought you had good material. I'll protect you. What about the decision to go with Beauregard in goal? Have you heard that?
Well, I didn't hear that, but if he's going to go with him, Senza must be hurt, because the Senza played a hell of a game the last time. He must be hurt. He got hurt, because to switch on that guy is unbelievable to me. And I don't know, I think the Oilers will be licking their chops to get at a kid that's never been there before.
Young guns in goal. It's such an impact game. The last chance to advance for both of these teams. And it is on deck, the Edmonton Oilers and the Winnipeg Jets. Rick, do you want to say hi to anybody at home?
Hi.
Okay. area in the lower concourse. Coming up next, we'll bring you period 1 of Game 7. Winnipeg at Edmonton, the winner to meet the Los Angeles Kings. Our Stanley Cup playoff hockey will return to Molson Hockey Night in Canada in a moment.
At Northlands Coliseum, the seasons of the Jets and Oilers have come down to Game 7 in this Smythe Division semifinal. Over 12 days of the 1990 Stanley Cup playoffs, only one division final has been set. It's the Patrick Division. The Rangers and Washington Capitals begin the final series Thursday night at Madison Square Garden. Rangers will have had 5 days rest after finishing the Islanders in round 1 on Friday night. The Montreal Canadiens have a berth in the Adams Division final after dispatching the Sabres from the playoffs last night. They're waiting for either the Boston Bruins or Hartford Whalers, who will play Game 7 tomorrow night in Boston to decide their series. The Smythe Division final begins Wednesday night after upsetting the defending Stanley Cup champions Saturday in Los Angeles to win that series in 6. Wayne Gretzky and the Kings will pay attention to our game at Northlands tonight as the Jets and Oilers decide who will advance against the Kings. And the St. Louis Blues have been sitting back for 4 days now, waiting for either Chicago or Minnesota to emerge from that first-round series. The Norris final will open on Wednesday night. Chicago and Minnesota have been engaged in Game 7 for the last hour at noisy Chicago Stadium to see which team will face the Blues. North Stars lead 1-0. And right now at Northlands, let's go to the national anthem.
See the concentration on the faces of the players during the playing of the national anthem. They're ready for this 7th game. Terry Fraser is the referee tonight, working in this series for the first time. Gerard Gauthier and Bob Hodges are the linesmen. Stefan Beauregard is something of a surprise starter in goal for the Winnipeg Jets. The 22-year-old got his lone win of the series, but he replaced the injured Bob Essenza midway through the second period of Game 4. And the Oilers are counting on Bill Ranford to continue the fine play that helped them win games 5 and 6 by identical 4-3 scores.
Stefan Beauregard's a surprise to me. I thought he'd come back with Bob Essenza, although Beauregard's stats are better than Essenza's, except for the win column, and this will be his 3rd road start of the series.
I'm Don Whitman along with John Garrett as we await the dropping of the puck. It is McTavish against Brent Ashton, and the 7th game is underway. There are many people in both Edmonton and Winnipeg with the elimination of the Calgary Flames on Saturday who believe that this is a Stanley Cup game for these two teams. In other words, the winner has a great shot at taking over as Stanley Cup champion from the disposed Calgary Flames.
I was in Montreal last night. There was the same situation there. You see the scratches. Randy Carlyle still hurt. Laurie Boschman and Phil Sykes scratches, and for the Edmonton Oilers, Grant Fuhr is hurt. Vladimir Ruzicka has yet to see any ice time in the playoffs.
Bob Murdoch made one major lineup change. He has added Peter Taglianetti, who has been out for the past 2 games with a rib injury. John Muckler is going with the identical lineup that carried him to victory in Game 5 and 6.
The Oilers really came out in Game 6. Shoulder poison took it to the Winnipeg Jets, outshot them 12-2, and put up that 3-0 lead in the first period.
Kevin Lowe, who missed games 3 and 4 in Winnipeg. Celebrated his 31st birthday yesterday. He's been a key back on the blue line for the Oilers. So far, both teams starting out very cautiously, John. Is this what you more or less anticipated?
Well, for sure, especially with the Oilers with their checking line on right away. They don't want to make any mistake.
Craig Muni plays it around to Kevin Lowe. Rink wide to Brookberger. He has played well. He got into action after missing game 1 and has been a constant form in the Jets side ever since. Long lead pass intended for Paslowski, intercepted, and the Oilers dump it back into Winnipeg territory. Avella to Mo Manta. He was looking for Howard, shot too far for him. Randy Gregg goes back after. The Oilers try and chop it out along the boards, kept in by Paslowski. Back of the net, the Jets gain control. They tried to slide it back to the point, but Manta wasn't in position.
Good forechecking by the Jets. Paslowski created a chance, just an errant pass back to the point.
Puck fired all the way down the ice, but there was no icing on the play. And now the Oilers try that long lead pass to Charlie Huddy. He couldn't control it. This is something viewers who have not seen all of this series will notice in this game, that the defensemen really move up and get involved in the play.
We saw that long lead pass to the red line, and who was the pass intended for? Oiler defenseman Charlie Huddy.
Steve Smith has it in his own zone. Salina moving up. His pass intercepted. Van Ashton brings it back. Long shot high off the glass. Glenn Anderson, who has yet to score a goal in the playoffs, trying to work out. Moves it ahead to Messier. Messier working against Donnelly. Looks cross ice, and it's intercepted. Back comes Winnipeg. Dave McElwain dumps it into Edmonton territory as the Jets make a change. The Oilers, Steve Smith was looking to try and hit Craig Simpson with a long lead pass. He was uncovered up at that Winnipeg line, but he couldn't get it to him. Loose puck in front of the Jet net, picked up by Thomas Dean. He moves it ahead to Elman. Back to Doug Evans. He shoots it in. Dean picks it up off the boards. He spins around. The weak shot is steered to the corner. In the first 4 games of the series, John Mucker went with 3 lines basically in the second and the third period. But in games 5 and 6, he employed all 4 lines. And the line that is considered to be the number 4 line with the Oilers is out there now. 16:54 is the time remaining in a still scoreless opening period.
Update on the 7th and deciding game between Minnesota and Chicago. The Hawks pressed early, hit the post twice, but the North Stars scored. Brian Bellows turned and fired, and Don Barber tipped it past Greg Millen, starting in goal for the Hawks tonight. Denny Savard, in a big loss for the Hawks, has been thrown out of the game on a high-sticking major. Neil Broughton was the North Star, who was hit by the high stick. Chicago also lost Keith Brown to ejection earlier. So it's 1-0 Minnesota, now starting the second period at noisy Chicago Stadium.
Blackhawks really in a hole without Brown and Savard, and if you're keeping track, there have been 18 stick fouls in the playoffs, resulting in ejection. Only 14 fights so far in the playoffs.
I think that's what the NHL officials like, that there hasn't been as many fights, but I'm sure they're not too happy with that number of high sticking fouls.
Loose puck in the Winnipeg zone, kicked ahead by Taglianetti, but Muni manages to keep it in. Some very quick line changes in this opening period. Flipped ahead to Brent Ashton. Ashton is stopped at the line by Muni as it's touched by Fenton. It's an offside call against Winnipeg.
Ashton showing his speed. Both coaches trying to get all the players involved in this game in the first 5 minutes. There's nothing like the 7th game of the Stanley Cup playoff series to create butterflies no matter how many times you've been there. And both coaches wanted to get the players involved and calm down.
John Mucker was telling me this morning, he said, the really disappointing aspect of this game is that one of these teams is going to be finished, and they are 2 evenly balanced, equally matched sides.
He said they should make a collective tape of all 7 games and polish it up and put it in the archives. It's been that good a series.
Mucker feels this has been a better series, a more entertaining series than the Battle of Alberta in 1986 between Calgary and Edmonton. Those of you who witnessed that one will remember what great hockey we saw there. Moves out. Stopped at the line. Buckberger back to Charlie Huddy. Butler feels Huddy has been his most valuable player in the playoffs. He has lost a lot of ice time. The veteran rear guard has really played well.
Especially when Kevin Lowe missed those 2 games in Winnipeg, games 3 and 4. Huddy and Randy Gregg played almost 40 minutes a game.
The Jets make another line change. Randy Gregg off the boards for Charlie Huddy. Fired back into Edmonton territory. This should be an icing call. It is. 15:53 remains in what has been a very cautious opening period. Not a shot on goal yet.
Charlie Huddy's jumped up into the play already a couple of times early in this first period. The Oilers have to put some pressure on young Stefan Beauregard. You can play junior and you can play in the American League, but all of a sudden you're in the National Hockey League facing elimination for the first time. It's a scary feeling for a 22-year-old netminder.
Well, nowhere in Canada do they take more delight in the elimination of the Calgary Flames than right here in Edmonton. As one newspaper columnist suggested, in Calgary you spell dynasty O-N-E. John Cronin behind his own net. The Jets have 7 defensemen dressed for this game, with the return of Peter Taglianetti to the lineup. Deacon intercepts the pass. He can't go anywhere with it. Jari Kurri has to wait for him to get onside before dumping it to the corner. Teppo Numminen plays it up along the board. Charlie Huddy trying to keep it in. He battles there with Paslowski. Paslowski couldn't do anything with it. Mark Lamb was in the forecheck, but now Sean Cronin moves it out. Howard Chuck slides it into the slot area. Paslowski tried to get it across to Evans, and he found in the shot. Paslowski, ring wide pass. Broken up at the line. Jets try again. Too far for Elnick. It slides back into Edmonton territory. Ruotsalainen is there for the Oilers to Steve Smith. 14:49 remaining in the period. Smith drives it in. And this play is whistled down. It's still scoreless in this decisive 7th game at Northlands Coliseum. Many thought Bob Essenza would start tonight, but Bob Murdoch surprised a lot of people by going with the youngster Stefan Beauregard, who actually has a better goals against average in the playoffs, 2.70 against the Oilers.
And a better save percentage, but Essenza has been their main man. I'm sure he's disappointed. As much as he's a team guy and everything, the individual wants to get out there and play, not sit on the bench and watch.
Murdoch's comment this morning, I asked him about the starting goaltender, was Beauregard tonight, Essenza in Game 1 Wednesday against Los Angeles. 14:20 remaining in the period. We have still to register a shot on goal.
Doug Evans isn't very big, but he is pound for pound one of the toughest guys on this Winnipeg Jet team. He and his brothers, playing for the Peterborough James gang, won 3 Minto Junior Lacrosse Championships in a row. 4 Evans brothers 1 year, 3 the next 2.
This play has gone almost unnoticed in the playoffs. 2 goals and 2 assists. He had that very important tying goal in the 3rd period on Saturday night in Winnipeg.
And he's been one of those guys that draws a lot of penalties. He seems to know when to go down and attract the referee's attention.
The Jets' statement after Game 6 on Saturday was that in the first period, with that very noisy Winnipeg crowd, they were really tight when they came out on the ice. O'Massey was telling me that in the dressing room, guys were almost squeezing the sawdust out of their sticks. Puck bounces, Manta has it. He has really played well for the Jets. Lead pass to Brent Ashton. Ashton dumps it in. The Jets make another quick line change. Craig Muni brings it out for Edmonton. Up ahead to Messier. He tried to go rink wide with it, and it was broken up. 13:53 is the time remaining in the first period. While the Jets have used both their goaltenders, the former Winnipeg Jet, Pokey Reddick, has been strictly a backup so far in this playoff series to Bill Ranford.
He was a valuable acquisition when both Fuhr and Ranford went down. He played 11 straight games with over 500. Very solid goals against average, a save percentage over 900. Pokey proved that he could still play. Tough year for Pokey Reddick, though. He was in the American League and then called up and then back to the American League and then back up again.
Gerard Gauthier over at the Winnipeg bench. He appears to have a problem, or does Kerry Fraser have a problem?
Gauthier has a whistle problem. Go to the spare whistle.
Well, in case you're wondering, these are the 6 teams that have come back from a 3-1 deficit in games. Interestingly, it has occurred in each of the last 3 years. Los Angeles a year ago, Washington in '88, and twice in '87, the Islanders for the second time, and the Red Wings.
It's a statement for parity in the NHL and how even most teams are that it has happened in the last 3 years.
Well, Gerard Gauthier apparently has solved the problem with his whistle. They still have not had a shot on goal. Doug Smale tries. It's blocked by Muni. As that puck came back to him, Mark Temple racing into the right side was offside. Doug Smale returned to the Winnipeg lineup for Game 6 after missing Game 5. A rather freak injury when he tripped over the goaltender at the morning skate and crashed heavily into the end boards, injuring his back.
It was almost funny. He tripped over one goaltender at one end, went down at the other end. It was during a shooting drill. Tripped over Bob Essenson, crashed even more heavily into the boards at the other end. That's why he missed those 2 games.
13:44 still left in this opening period. Mark Donnelly loses it. Delano can't get away from Teppo Numanov. It's loose in the Winnipeg zone. Joe Murphy. Tied up along the boards by McElwain. McElwain is checked by Graves. Donnelly trying to tie him up. And then McElwain comes out with the puck. He gets it cross ice to Smale. Smale lets a long shot go, hit the side of the net. Newman keeps it in. Smale can't do anything with it. He's tied up. And the Oilers in their own zone play it up along the boards. Honey takes a hit from Gord Donnelly as the puck slides down into Winnipeg territory. Steve Smith. The Roots alignment. And to Mark Lamb. He has had a strong playoff, including the overtime winning goal in Game 2. And he set up the winning goal by Yari Curry on Saturday night.
Here's a quick 3-on-2 for the Jets.
A whistle on the play, and it's because Esa Tikkanen is down way back in the Winnipeg zone beside the Winnipeg net. Tikkanen was bumped and bruised in Game 6. But he managed to play. He has been the leading scorer for the Oilers. 3 goals and 5 assists through 6 games.
And you see he's rubbing his leg just above the knee, between the knee and the pants.
The Jets protesting as they were breaking out 3-on-2, but the whistle went. And you'll see it behind the play.
There's Tikkanen and Kozlowski. Kozlowski reaches around, turns him, and his momentum carries him in. He must have twisted his knee. I don't think he was hacked.
He was grabbing the back of his leg as he went down. 12:31 remains in the period.
A big goal at Chicago Stadium scored by the Hawks. They'd already lost Benny Savard, but it's Wayne Presley to the rescue. Dwayne Sutter dug it out of the corner and fed it out front. The pass banks off John Casey's stick. Presley scores his 4th of the playoffs. A minute and 6 seconds after that, Adam Creighton did the work, and Presley scores his 5th of the playoffs. And so with 2 goals 66 seconds apart, both by Wayne Presley, the Hawks lead 2-1 now.
Well, Elvis picked up his ticket Saturday night at the Winnipeg Arena. Wayne gets 2 big goals for the Hawks tonight. Kozlowski, long shot, right on, and that's the first shot on goal as Ranford makes the save and covers up.
And I think Ranford's a little shaken up. He lost his wind here. I'm sure he's just trying to gasp for some air. Kozlowski surprised him with the shot. When you're not set, that's what happens when it hits you in the midsection. Just knocks the wind out of you. As you can see Ranford getting up slowly. Here's Kozlowski on his forehand. Look at Ranford in perfect position. And takes it right in the Oilers sign. Couldn't get out of the way if he wanted to.
Well, Ranford was the target of some criticism for his play in Game 1, but he certainly bounced back. Teddy Green, the assistant coach, said Games 5 and 6 could be the start of a new life for Bill Ranford, and they certainly proved to be that.
He seems to be getting more confident with every game.
The Oilers, for the third straight time, facing elimination. They won Games 5 and 6 by identical 4-3 scores. Bennett trying to dig it out of there. Gets it again. Passed it over to McDermott. He fired it wide. The best scoring opportunity of the game thus far. Here comes Buchberger. He's working against Cronin. Cronin takes him out of the play. The puck goes to the corner. Bennett moves it ahead to Ashton. Ashton has McDermott racing up in the play. Ashton is checked by Craig Muni, and Bill Ranford bangs it off the glass, and the Oilers dump it out. Buck Snell is his pass intercepted by Buchberger. On the way to McTavish. Long shot. Oh, he just missed the far corner.
Beauregard lost the net and had gone by the angle. And McTavish just missed the open side.
Here comes Anderson, steaming in against Newman. Anderson comes in front. He scores!
This is vintage Glenn Anderson. Watch him go wide on Newman on his backhand. And he's going to pile over the goaltender if he has to. But look at Beauregard. He leaves the post way too early, goes for the poke check. It's an all-or-nothing gamble, and the young goaltender loses.
Glenn Anderson's first goal of the playoffs, and the Oilers have a 1-0 lead. Elder leaves it for Thomas Steen. He's checked by Anderson. Anderson will try the same maneuver. This time, Newman takes him out of the play. Thomas Steen starts back with Chuck Smith. Steen moving into the slot, scores! What a shot by Thomas Steen to tie it. All right. Well, there have only been 3 shots, and we've got 2 goals.
This is a clean 2-on-2, and the Oiler defense backs in. Look at how far back they are, and Steen cuts to the middle. Look at where he gets his shot from. Not very far out, a 25-footer, but he had Bill Ranford fooled, and one of the few times Ranford has gone down to his knees early. That's Charlie Huddy to back in, and look at Ranford's on his knees before the shot's taken. Steen beats him high glove side.
Those goals coming just 27 seconds apart. Anderson's first in the playoffs from Blake and Ranford at 8:54. That's the second assist of the playoffs for Ranford. And Steen from Elder to Newman at 9:21. Steen's second goal in the playoffs. It's tied at 1. Just 3 shots on goal. Murphy steals it, tries to move out front. Here's the shot by Jelen. It's deflected by Olsen. Up over the glass and out of play. 10:25 remains in the first period.
Anderson cuts to the net, and Beauregard goes, I'm going to poke check him no matter what. Misses the poke check, and it goes in. At the other end, Bill Ranford commits himself early on this shot by Steen. See him down on his knees, and Steen goes high glove side as the Oiler defense backed in really deep on a 2-on-2.
That's so typical of the way this playoff series has gone. Very little between the two teams. The biggest lead at any time was the 3-0 advantage Winnipeg enjoyed in Game 6 Saturday night, or that Edmonton enjoyed, I should say, and Winnipeg came back to tie. That goal for Glenn Anderson, by the way, his 150th career playoff point. own zone, plays it around the boards for Whitberger. He pushed it ahead to McTavish. Big hit as McDermott hit Whitberger. What a sharp angle, a shot by Klima. That hit the post. And there's a whistle as the Winnipeg net is knocked off its supports. Beauregard looked a little tentative on that shot by Klima.
See Kerry Fraser's talking to Beauregard. That shot hit the post. Klima had a bad angle. Beauregard didn't think Klima was going to shoot it. Klima had a little room, and it was Beauregard who backed in and knocked the net off. Here's the play. Kevin Lowe to Klima. Now watch Beauregard. He's going flat back into the net. Doesn't get square to Klima, and it hits the post short side, and that's where the post came off. Here's a little better angle. And watch Beauregard. After the shot, he banks himself into the net and knocks the post off.
Stefan Beauregard grew up admiring Ken Dryden because of his Montreal roots, but Grant Fuhr became his role model a few years ago. This is one of the main reasons is that Fuhr is a southpaw just like himself.
He doesn't play much of a style. He plays more like Tony Esposito than he does Grant Fuhr. He butterflies a lot.
9:43 remaining in the opening period. The score tied at 1. Doug Evans. Checked by Lamb as he managed to move the puck along the boards. Now Kozlowski gets it loose to Mantha. Mantha for Howardchuk. Howardchuk forced to circle in his own zone. The Oilers forechecking here. And the Jets having problems getting out of their own end. Kozlowski forced to circle back. He leaves it there. And the Winnipeg Jets wisely, I think, fire at the length of the ice. It's an icing call with 9:07 remaining in the period. Each side has scored a goal. Now that doesn't look at all like the Easter Bunny.
The John Garrett fan club is coming here.
Membership of 1.
If they had to pay for that.
9:07 remaining in the period. Still just 3 shots on goal. The Jets have 2 of them, but each side has a goal. Goes back in front of the net. Beauregard managed to dump it to the corner. Tikkanen, who was shaken up earlier in the period, manages to keep it in. Gary Curry tried to center it, intercepted by Kozlowski and dumped down the ice. Steve Smith banks it off the boards. Gimmonen gets it, cross ice to Howardchuk. Howardchuk controlling, lets the shot go up high on Ranford, and it deflects way up into the crowd. Smith and Evans having an exchange of words. In game 1, the Jets had success by shooting at Bill Ranford. Claire Drake, one of the assistant coaches, as we heard and saw on one occasion on the bench, kept yelling at his players to do just that.
Here, Howardchuk's had a bad angle, but Ranford makes a great save. Look at where this shot's going. It's labeled. And there goes Doug Evans, backing into the goaltender, and Steve Smith takes exception to it. Now watch Ranford. Evans has a hold of his glove, and Ranford fakes the left jab.
I suppose Steve was saying, you just shouldn't do things like that. Alpo Suonen and Claire Drake, the assistant coaches, are both down on the bench with headman Bob Murdoch, and Bill Ranford draws a slashing penalty for that altercation with Doug Evans. Craig Simpson will serve the penalty.
That looked like Bill Ranford just faked like he was going to punch Doug Evans, and he took the slashing penalty.
So the first power play of the hockey game goes to Winnipeg. Winnipeg power play, 7 of 32. Number 4 among playoff participants. And the Edmonton Oilers, I should also point out, have scored 2 short-handed goals. Steve Smith and Mark Messier have got the short-handed goals for Winnipeg. Dave Allen forced to play it around the boards against the forechecking of Craig McTavish. Now Pat Elnick will try and move it up. Ahead for Elliott. He can't go anywhere with it. Here comes Messier. Messier checked by Howardchuk. The puck loose along the boards. And the Jets are really having problems against this killing for the Oilers. Olsen now rifles it in. But the Edmonton Oilers dump it down the ice. And it's deflected out of play as I believe it hit the linesman. And it's way up.
Hit Bob Hodges and jumped up over the boards. The faceoff comes back into the Edmonton Oilers zone, and you can see the Oilers are complaining, saying, why is the faceoff not outside? Kerry Fraser's coming over. Going back deep into the zone. The Winnipeg Jet power play has been good in some games and not so good in others. They really have to get it going here tonight. In Game 6, when they really needed it, they were 0 for 5.
109 remaining in the penalty to Bill Ranford. The Jets make a change in their power play unit. Fenton, McDermott, and Ashton are out there. It's Givenen and Mantha back on the point. Mark Lamb will take the face-off for the Oilers. His overtime goal got the Oilers back on even terms in Game 2. Winnipeg led that game by a score of 2-0 going into the third. Draw back to Newman, into Ashton. To Newman, over to Mantha. His weak shot, blocked. Coming up against the Winnipeg Jets. Paul Fenton. Jump play Beauty. And that will negate the advantage. 56 seconds remaining in the Edmonton penalty.
Paul Fenton's been very good on faceoffs. He won that draw back and then went to the front of the net like he usually does, but Mantha couldn't get the shot through. Muni jumped up and Fenton just hauled him down. Here's the play, goes back to Mantha, good penalty killing. They rush Mantha, Tikkanen, and there's Fenton just hooking down Muni, and he takes the hooking penalty.
12:36, the time of the penalty to Paul Fenton. He shared the Winnipeg goal-scoring lead during regular season play with Pat Elnick. And in the playoffs, Paul Fenton has scored 2 goals.
Both from the same place, both from just outside the crease in front of Bill Ranford.
7:24 remaining in the period. 56 seconds of penalty to Bill Ranford with Paul Fenton going to the box.
Peter Taglianetti and Frank Muni. Peter Taglianetti was really upset he wasn't in Game 6. He felt he was ready to be back in the lineup. Bob Murdoch chose not to dress him. I'm sure Taglianetti expressed his displeasure and is back in the lineup tonight.
He suffered a cracked rib and is wearing a type of flak jacket playing tonight. But he had declared himself ready to play in Game 6 in Winnipeg, but Bob Murdoch opted to go with Phil Sykes instead. Here's a pass to Tikkanen. Quick shot saved by Beauregard. Tikkanen attempted to take advantage of the Winnipeg defenseman Mo Mantha to let a partially screened shot go. Thomas Dean, who has scored for the Jets, working in, shoots a weak shot, just slid wide. Taglianetti shovels it out in front, nobody there. Back comes Gary Curry with Tikkanen. He gives it to Tikkanen, back to Curry. Curry took it on his skate, a backhand shot, loose puck in front of the net. And Leo Ruotsalainen couldn't get a shot away as McElwain brings it back. The Oilers now on the power play. McElwain pulling off some time, gives it to Teppo Newman. He fires at the length of the ice.
Good chance for Ruotsalainen, and again we see those defensemen jumping up into the play. Ruotsalainen almost connected on a rebound.
Simpson. Cross-ice pass, too hard, too high for Mark Messier. Messier, the quarterback of this power play. Anderson at the side of the net. Simpson in front. Ruotsalainen. Messier with a shot. Saved by Beauregard. Messier had trouble controlling it, and the Jets break it up. Dumped down the ice by McElwain with 18 seconds remaining in the penalty.
Good play by Ruotsalainen on McElwain. Played the body all the way and made sure that McElwain didn't get the short-handed check.
Steve Smith fires it in. Flips around the boards. Craig Simpson is checked, but gets it back to the point to Randy Gray. The penalty to Winnipeg is over. Fenton on the ice. Steve Smith from the point. Lets a shot go. That was deflected and then redirected by Craig Simpson, and Beauregard had to react quickly. Simpson picks up the loose puck in the neutral zone. 5:06 remaining in the period with the score tied at 1. Both teams started off very cautiously for the first 10 minutes, but the tempo has picked up.
The penalties have given both teams a chance to create some offense, and I think they're starting to feel a lot more comfortable in this game.
Dave Ellett keeps it in. Ellett to Evans, a shot saved. Bill Ranford grabbed it. The whistle went. Ranford was looking behind him. He thought maybe it had got by him, but he makes a big save off Doug Evans in the slot.
Shepard positioned himself. He's not going to have time to react. He's just right there. He goes down and hits him. And look at where the puck is. He's looking behind him. It's underneath his knees.
Dale Howardchuck mildly protesting to Kerry Fraser that puck did come loose, but it was well after the whistle had gone. John Cronin unable to keep it in. An offside call against Winnipeg.
John Cronin having trouble controlling that puck. He sometimes has trouble when the puck comes back to him. He's played a solid, disciplined series.
Bob Murdoch was saying there's nobody in the Winnipeg lineup that plays with more heart than Sean Cronin. If you were watching our game Saturday night, you saw him dive into the net trying to block a shot. He crashed heavily into the goalpost. It looked as though he was seriously hurt. He came back to finish the game.
And you notice who Bob Murdoch has him playing with. He's got him out there with probably the Jets' best puck handling defenseman, Mo Manton.
Puck handling is one area in which Cronin does not really excel.
It's square when he's done with it, is that what you're saying?
Lamb. Checked by Howardchuck. Howardchuck has on occasion been criticized for his defensive shortcomings, but he has played well in this series defensively. He is also the leader offensively. He has 3 goals and 5 assists. Cronin tried to move it up along the boards, and it slides down into the Edmonton zone. Kevin Lowe, rink wide for Craig Muni. 3:58 remaining in the period. Here comes Mark Lamb, a long shot. Brent Ashton picks it up in the corner. Then he's checked by Peter Klima, and he has to go back to the goal to Newman. Too far for Paul McDermott. Racing back after it is Charlie Huddy. Huddy, check. Kept in at the point by Newman. McDermott back to the net for Ashton. Ashton trying to move out. Now he leaves it for Fenton. The centering attempt is blocked. And the Oilers' Randy Gregg gets it ahead to McTavish. To Klima. Back to McTavish. McTavish to Buchberger. Buchberger on his backhand slides it in front. And it was knocked away just in time by Paul Fenton.
When Kelly Buchberger gets at that angle, he should just try and shoot the puck. Don't get too cute. He was right in on Beauregard, tried to get cute and just lost it.
Guys who can get cuter. Peter Klima, he slides it in front. And Buchberger took a swipe at it, but Beauregard stood his ground. Klima, very clever puck handler. Here comes Thomas Steen. Steen, cross-ice pass he was looking for Freddie Olesen. It was deflected away. Ellett to Steen. Steen is tied up. Can't get a shot away as he was checked. Stolen by Smale. Saved by Ranford, who came way up to cut down the angle. The Jets applying pressure. Ellett with a shot. Doesn't get through. In front of the net. And it's knocked down the ice by the Oilers.
Kelly Buchberger couldn't get off the ice, and you can see him struggling to the bench now at the end of a long shift. And he's the one that gave that puck away.
Back comes Winnipeg. Led by Elnick. Backhand shot blocked by Kevin Lowe. Brent Anderson feeds it to Lamb. He's going in alone. Score!
Call him an unlikely hero anymore. Here Mo Mantha tried to dive, and look at Lamb. He just waits for Beauregard to start to fall down and then slides it through. It's like, what a pass by Glenn Anderson. But watch Lamb. He takes a look, sees the goaltender start to go down, and then just slides it 5-hole and beats Beauregard.
Glenn Anderson and Kevin Lowe drawing the assists on the third playoff goal by Mark Lamb. And that came with the Winnipeg Jets pressuring the Oilers in their own zone. And very quickly, Anderson moved that pass ahead to Lamb, an excellent play. Here's Cupper, long shot saved by Ranford with Howardchuk cutting in front of the goal. Back comes Lamb. He still has it for Curry. And Curry couldn't get a stick on it. Mark Lamb has really played well in this series. Howardchuk to the attack. A shot that's up high and wide. It rides around the dasher. Back comes Lamb. Ranford protesting that he was interfered with. And the play is called on an offside at the Winnipeg blue line with 1:25 left in the period. Ranford is unhappy. Now with a Stanley Cup update, here's Scott Oak.
Don, Chicago's in front of Minnesota by 3 now after a major mistake by Perry Berezan of Minnesota. He was stripped of the puck in front of John Casey. Jeremy Roenick took it, and Michel Goulet gets credit for the goal, making Berezan and Casey pay for the mistake. 3-1 Chicago. Now Wayne Presley got his 2 earlier. Roenick got his pair in short order. Steve Larmer intercepted an errant clearing pass, set up Roenick, who scored from the slot. It is 4-1 Chicago in the second period of the final game of this Norris series.
Beginning to look very much as though it will be Chicago and St. Louis in that Norris Division final. And the fans still roaring, and Bill Ranford still complaining about the hit he took as the Oilers broke out of their own zone.
You see right here, the old slew foot, it's called, as Peter Taglianetti just kicks Ranford's feet out. Ranford's already taken a penalty, so he's figuring that Kerry Fraser will leave it up and call one right back on Taglianetti. It was so far behind the play, I'm sure Kerry Fraser had already turned and followed the play.
Buchberger races to the corner, checked by Donnelly. Then McTavish steps into Ashton, and the two of them continue the battle in the corner. Finally, McDermott picks up the puck. That's right in front of his own net before giving it to Fenton. All Fenton can do is dump it down the ice. Back after it is Randy Gray. We're into the final minute of the period. The Oilers leading by a score of 2-1. The go-ahead goal and the breakaway by Mark Lamb. Paul Fenton shoots it back in for Winnipeg. Charlie Huddy will bring it back up. Lays puck in the center ice area. Dave Ellett forced back by Glenn Anderson. Ahead to Thomas Dean. He couldn't do anything with it. Craig Simpson to Messier. Messier in front. And Simpson couldn't get a shot away. He went flying into goaltender Stefan Beauregard. And the net again comes loose with 29 seconds left in the period.
Dave Ellett was the one who took Craig Simpson, and it looked like Ellett was hurt more than anybody else. Very close to being offside at the Winnipeg Jet blue line on that pass from Simpson to Messier. A good chance. Messier threw a hard pass to Simpson, hard and high. Would have been a lucky one if it would have hit Simpson and gone in. Here's the play. Right across the blue line to Messier. Now watch how hard this pass is. Simpson driving to the net. Good job by Olsen and Ellett to make sure Simpson could get a stick on it.
Well, there have been more incidents this playoff year than in any year I can recall where goaltenders have had players crashing into them, and goaltenders have been hurt as a result of those collisions.
Well, I couldn't believe last night, the Montreal-Buffalo game, the number of times where players had an opportunity to go to the net, but they're concentrating on defense so much in that series anyway, they wouldn't take the chance, they just peel off. And it became an easy game and a relatively easy series for the Montreal Canadiens.
Well, Craig Simpson has gained notoriety for the way he charges the net and takes up a position directly in front of the goaltender. As a matter of fact, he led the Oilers this year in penalties with 180 minutes. Long shot from the point. Knocked down. Ahead for McDermott. Too far for him. Roots the line and loses it. Fenton with a shot. It's blocked. Messier moves it along the boards, but not out. Finally, Anderson kicks it free. Simpson tried to race after it, but he was tied up by Fenton. 2 seconds left in the period, and that's the way it will end. Bill Ranford with some key saves in this opening period for the Edmonton Oilers. And Mark Lamb with the go-ahead goal on a breakaway, supplying them with the edge they enjoy after 20 minutes of play. Anderson on a fine individual effort at 8:54, and then just Just 27 seconds later, Thomas Steen tied it before Lamb scored on the breakaway, his third of the playoffs. The Jets outshot the Oilers in the opening period by a margin of 7-6. And so the score at the end of the first period is Edmonton 2, Winnipeg 1.
Consensus among those who followed this series is that a seventh and deciding game is a fitting end to it, and the Oilers lead 2-1 after one. With Randy Gregg in their lineup during the regular schedule, the Edmonton Oilers had a winning percentage of .650. Without him, they were .400. I'm not sure that'll win him any awards, but it does suggest that the Oilers are a far better team with Randy Gregg in the lineup than out. But your goal tonight, of course, is to rise above 500 in this playoff series. In the first period, was typical of what we've seen so far.
It is. It's been a good series for the fans. Lots of fast skating, good forechecking, some nice plays around the net, and both our forwards and their forwards are going hard to the net. I'm sure the goaltenders aren't that happy about that, but it's creating a lot of excitement for the fans.
You've been in over 100 playoff games with the Oilers, Randy. You have 4 Stanley Cup rings. I'm wondering if you're hard-pressed to recall a series that's been as close as this one.
Can't really. Hard checking. You know, they've got forwards that aren't necessarily flashy, but every one of them takes the body well. They play the position well, and it's hard going out there.
Do you accept the suggestion by many that the winner of this series is the favorite to win this division and perhaps the conference and go on to appear in the Stanley Cup final?
Well, we're concerned more about this game tonight. We've got one day, the winners at least, to consider the Los Angeles Kings, but certainly every series has to be taken on its own merit, and the Winnipeg Jets are playing a superb series. We have to worry about them.
You're a medical doctor, the only one playing in the NHL. I wonder if you get a chance to get in touch with that profession in the off-season.
Well, I try to a little bit, and on the road we have a lot of time off the ice where I can do some reading and things, but I'm looking forward to, after my career is over, getting back into medicine full-time.
Did they ever ask you for advice around the locker room? So I understand that you did help Grant Fuhr diagnose appendicitis on one occasion?
Well, that's not too hard to diagnose, especially with Grant, but I'll stitch up the occasional guy. Anything serious will go to our doctors as it should be.
Have you got any plans re your future in terms of how much longer you'll play before you get back into medicine on a full-time basis?
2 more periods for sure.
Okay. And you, of course, hope that you don't have time to pay attention to medicine after this game tonight, because it's going to come down to the last 2 periods.
Absolutely. We're going to work hard. It's going to be exciting the next 2 periods.
Randy Gregg, thanks for your time. Randy Gregg of the Edmonton Oilers, whose team leads 2-1 after 1 period in the 7th and deciding game of this Smythe Division semifinal series at Northland. Stay with us. Don Cherry is in the coach's corner when our first intermission continues.
Coach's Corner is brought to you by Pepsi. It's got what it takes.
You know, when you got it right, you got it right. All right, now who was the wise guy?
Join the Diet Pepsi Taste Drive.
Now, that's the right one, baby.
Can I tell you the rumor?
Okay, go ahead.
All right, the rumor is, I know you heard it, I just heard it outside, that Dennis Morel is going to star as a referee in that new movie of John Candy's Slapshot.
Let's move ahead to what
No comment on that?
No comment on that. I want to talk about Game 7 here this evening.
Well, I just have to say, McTavish, I thought he'd slow down, but the guy is as good as he ever is. And Lamb, look what the guy gets a goal. And why doesn't Mark Messier shoot the puck?
You had Lamb on the plane today. Was that to try and perhaps spark him?
Is that as good as my Morel joke or what?
No, it's not. It's just a truth. You did have Lamb.
Okay.
And I tipped the purser $10 to do the announcements in French first. We had quite a day today. Why don't we go into some issues? Bob Clark has been dismissed as GM of the Philadelphia Flyers.
All right, I'll tell you something. Where all this started was downhill for him when he got rid of Brad McCrimmon. And he got rid of Brad McCrimmon because he got mad. He wanted $250,000, which is nothing now. He got mad at the agent, and he got rid of him. And Brad McCrimmon at the time not only played great, he was the best plus and minus. He made Mark Howell. They were the best 2 defensemen in the league, and they went all downhill. And
you think it was Bob or the Snyders, though?
No, it was Bob. He get mad at the agent, and he was zigging when he should have zagged, and he's gone. And it's too bad because I like Bobby Clark. Well, he doesn't like to be called Bobby, but I guess we can call him Bobby now.
Well, he played when you coached, so that's a long time ago. How about the Flames followed? What have you heard today?
You know, I heard a lot of things there. I pick up the Montreal player. It's all crisp.
funny. It was all Chris's fault.
Everywhere we were.
We picking up papers in our 4-hour trip out here.
Not Morel's fault, though, of course.
No. Oh, no. Hey, I love these players. I love these players that say, no, the goal didn't beat us. No, the goal didn't beat us. We were lost before. I love Dougie Gilmore when he got in there. He had a goal beat us. It was over the line. He made a mistake. I hate these guys. That was it. How did they say it? It said it was a long time ago back and stuff like that. Get out there and fight to the end. And they're out there shaking hands and all stuff like that. It was absolutely ridiculous. And how about Gretzky calling it too many men? Sportsmanship.
You used to shake hands.
I never shook hands. When I lost, now you kids out there, you want to shake hands, you mean it, fine. And my son, when he played hockey, shook hands. I never shook hands or lost. That's a good losers and all that stuff. It's good in Pee-wee, but they don't mean it. How many guys meant it? How about Gretzky calling it too many men on the ice? Have you ever seen that before in your life? Hold it, stop the play. Dennis Morel went over and saw
because he wanted to get the man advantage.
I mean, how can a player go over to a referee and say stop the play?
Just a final thought on your pal, Mark. In this series, when you look at an MVP, Lamb bears notice. And in Game 7, I'm sure you can remember, Lamb bears notice. 1979.
Is that it?
Montreal over Boston.
4 hours out here for 3 minutes.
Perfect.
Coach's Corner is brought to you by Pepsi. It's got what it takes.
Gordie Howe played for the Stanley Cup more often than any other NHL player. A legacy of longevity tonight on Ford's Great Moments in Hockey.
Better, a street machine that isn't confined to the street. Ford Ranger, the best-selling compact truck in Canada, is #1 for all the right reasons.
For all his years, Gordie Howe remained thirsty. Sid Abel and Ted Lindsay got him hooked on champagne early on at the Olympia, where champagne went with octopus. In 1955, he got his last mouthful after the Wings edged Montreal in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup. He tried to quench his desire against the Chicago Blackhawks. Later, in 1980, Howe would try with the Hartford Whalers, but was denied a sip from the silver mug. 20 years of Stanley Cup endeavors, including efforts against Toronto. Great Moments in Hockey is presented by
Job 1.
Here's what's going on in the 7th and deciding game of that Norris semifinal in Chicago. The Hawks lead Minnesota 4-1 after 2 periods now. Wayne Presley with 2 a minute and 6 seconds apart. Michel Goulet was originally credited with 1 of the Chicago goals. It has since been given back to Jeremy Roenick, so he has a pair. And with 20 minutes to go in that game, the deciding game in the Norris semifinal, Chicago leads by 3. Now, here at Northlands Coliseum, we are set for second period action, so let's go to Don Whitman and John Gibson.
Thank you, Scott. Hi again, everybody. The team's back in the ice for the second period. Both teams can reflect on their ability to come from behind in the series. The Winnipeg Jets in Game 1 twice trailed by 2 goals. They came back to win. The Edmonton Oilers on 3 occasions were down by 2 goals in Games 2, 3, and 4, and they came back in Game 2 for a victory. The go-ahead goal by Mark Lamb, and it starts in the Edmonton zone, and Glenn Anderson spots Lamb coming off the bench.
What a pass by Glenn Anderson, and Anderson has played better in the first period and a half here than he has in the other 6 games. The players were talking about it. Mark Messier got the winner in Game 5, Jari Kurri in Game 6, and Messier in particular was saying, well, I guess it's Andy's turn now, and he has played well right from the opening buzzer.
Mark Lamb, the most unlikely playoff scoring star for the Oilers, but he now has 7 points, 3 goals, and 4 assists. Kevin Lowe will dump it in. Beauregard along the boards for McDermott. He can't get out. Stolen. Shot right on. A rebound. And McTavish unable to jam it. The puck loose in front of that Winnipeg goal. And finally, Dave Ellett, with goaltender Stefan Beauregard down, whistles it off the glass and it deflects out of play. What a chance. Just 23 seconds into the period for Craig McTavish.
And that puck was behind Stefan Beauregard when Ellett got it. McTavish driving to the net. And Beauregard was very fortunate that this one just didn't squeak in. Here's the Oilers after the giveaway. Klima's shot. McTavish is right there. Now watch Ellett come in behind Beauregard. Kelly Buchberger jabs away, and there's the puck sliding towards the corner, and Ellett just shoots it out of play.
There was some concern whether Craig McTavish would be able to play in this game. He took quite a hit in Game 6, and there was speculation that he would be unavailable to the Oilers. Though with a long shot, it is blocked. Paul McDermott had it deflect out to center ice. The Oilers dump it right back in. Craig McTavish went out of the lineup. That would have been a blow to the Oilers because he is a vital member of their penalty-killing unit. This is an icing call against Winnipeg.
Dave Ellett, the hero in that Game 4 double overtime win of the Winnipeg Jets. And then the GOAT in Game 6 when he foolishly pinched in and set up a 2-on-1. Jari Kurri cashed in. But if you're going to have a great offensive player like Dave Ellett, you have to live with some of his defensive game that he plays. He seems to lose his concentration. He loses his focus on the game and doesn't think about what he's doing.
He is the weakest man in plus-minus as far as the Winnipeg Jets go in the playoffs. He's a -6. He had the worst plus-minus rating during regular season for the Jets at -15. Taglianetti gives it to Hawerchuk. Around the boards, but kept in. A long shot, gloved and held by Stefan Beauregard off the stick of Charlie Hutter.
The Oilers with good pressure here to start the second period. I thought they'd come out in the first period, but I think both teams were very nervous, very tentative until some penalties were called, and then the flow of the game started to take effect and both teams played better.
Esa Tikkanen is 4th among the leading scorers in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Tikkanen has obviously recovered from his first period problems. Charlie Huddy with a long shot that deflects to the corner. Lamb tries to get it out front. Beauregard played it back of the net, and the Jets whip it off the boards and down the ice. Manta, long shot. Andy Gray for Jari Kurri. He gets it out of the zone. Taglianetti flips it back in, and there's a whistle on the play.
Called on the offside, even with that new rule that the shot is going on net. Can't score a goal on an offside play. That one was right on Bill Ranford, and Jerry Gauthier called the offside.
We played a minute and 20 seconds of the second period. The Oilers leading by a score of 2-1. First period goals by Glenn Anderson and Mark Lamb, with Thomas Steen scoring for Winnipeg. Alpo Suonen, one of the Jets' assistant coaches who has been outspoken during the playoff series, suggested to me this morning that the team leaders have to be at their best, and those who are the most successful will be on the winning side. Mark Messier, one of the team leaders for the Oilers. I think you could put Jari Kurri and Glenn Anderson in that same classification. For Winnipeg, Thomas Steen and Dale Hawerchuk. Martin Jelena gets away from Donnelly. Jelena for Graves. Graves took a swipe at it, but Brent Adams got back there to block it. Ruotsalainen off the boards for Murphy. Back to Ruotsalainen. He is checked. McElwain can't move anywhere with it as Ruotsalainen gets it back. Jelena into the slot. Couldn't get a shot away on that bouncing puck. Back to Smith. Long shot high into the crowd. That puck just kept bouncing for Martin Jelena, and he never could control it as he tried to cut into the slot area.
We're talking, Alpo Suonen talking about the key players would have to show up and play well, and they asked Dale Hawerchuk the same question, and Hawerchuk said that the Winnipeg Jets have been at least a 20-man team all year, and Mark Messier expressed the same feeling. And the way it's turned out, you look at players like Mark Lamb, and Jelena has made his presence felt the last couple of games when they've seen some ice time. And I really think that both teams are using all their players.
Jelena played in Game 1. He was taken out of the lineup for Game 2. replaced by Kelly Buchberger. The feeling by John Muckler was that Jelena, the youngster, was just a little too nervous in game 1.
And Buchberger missed game 1 because of his shoulder problem that he got in Quebec. Buchberger has made his presence felt. He has to be healthy, though. His game is take the body and be a physical presence, and there's no sense sending him out if he's not 100%.
His sister, an outstanding volleyball player. She played with the Saskatchewan team that won the gold medal at the summer games. Long shot as Craig McTavish was going for the net, and Beauregard made the save. In the opening minutes of this second period, it's been all Edmonton. And here's another chance for Messier. Shot saved by Beauregard. Big rebound. Messier attempted to center it. Nobody there, and Thomas Steen starts back for Winnipeg. Steen trying to move around the defenseman Kevin Lowe, and Lowe managed to check him, and the puck is knocked back up. Here come the Oilers, 3-on-2. Messier is stopped. McTavish fires it in. Ron Muckler doing some line jumping there. He had Buchberger and McTavish out with Mark Messier.
And Messier ended up with a good scoring chance, and Beauregard made a good save on that hard wrist shot.
Charlie Huddy moves it ahead. Rink wide pass for Anderson. It's brought in across the line offside as Graves is out there now centering Simpson and Anderson for Edmonton.
10,000, an experience that lasts a lifetime.
Now is that fan on some type of medication we know nothing about?
I'm sure Don wouldn't be for the GST. Maybe that's what he wants done.
Taglianetti dumps it down the ice. Charlie Huddy being chased back to his own goal. Can't get out against Howardchuck. The Oilers will try and escape the other side. Kept in. Mantha knocked it down. Randy Gray finally moves it out. Mantha to Pat Elner. Hale races after it. Hale's knocked off the puck, and Mark Messier starts back for Anderson. Anderson spun around. He lost control. Taglianetti can't move it in the corner. Mark Messier unable to control it, but Smith will get it at the point. Long shot wide of the goal. Messier takes a hit from Taglianetti. Anderson tried to center for Simpson, but he was checked as he attempted to let the shot go. Elmer fires it down the ice. This will be an icing call, although it did look as though Ruotsalainen had a chance to keep it in at the point.
Took a bounce over his foot, and the linesman was right there. They saw that Ruotsalainen tried to stop it. Just went by him. The Oilers with good pressure, the defenseman starting to pinch in. You saw Steve Smith pinch in at the far blue line. Get a shot on net. Ruotsalainen tried to pinch in on the near side. The Oilers trying to get some pressure on Stefan Beauregard.
Well, you know, you talked about 7-game decisions in Stanley Cup playoff action. The Oilers have been involved 4 times in 1986. Steve Smith was the GOAT of that 3-2 loss to the Calgary Flames. The Oilers in 7 games in playoff action are 2-2. They won against Calgary and against Philadelphia. The Philadelphia victory was in a deciding game. Calgary, when they won, that was in the second round. They also lost to Calgary in the second round, and they lost in the first round in the 7th game last year to Los Angeles.
No matter what arena Steve Smith plays in, on the road, they're always hollering every time he handles the puck. They're screaming, shoot, shoot.
Kozlowski unable to get out. Long shot, knocked down in front. Back comes Winnipeg. Doug Evans had trouble controlling it. Gets it again and flips it into the Edmonton zone. 15:22 remaining in the second period. The Edmonton Oilers leading the Winnipeg Jets by a score of 2-1. The Jets have yet to register a shot in this second period, while the Oilers have had 4. Ruotsalainen has been with the Oilers just over a month. They feel that he is the key to their power play fortunes in this playoff round. Newman trying to get back there for an icing call, and he beats another countryman, Esa Tikkanen, to the puck.
So See, Rayo Ruotsalainen is discussing the breakout with Mark Lamb. The Oilers had trouble. Ruotsalainen has 23 shots on goal. You're talking about him being the key on the power play, and that's what the Oilers do. They try and set it up. So Ruotsalainen lets it go from the point, and they go for the rebounds and tip-ins.
He came to the Oilers on March the 6th via the New Jersey Devils. Greg McTavish now comes out as the Oilers make a change. Whitberger and Klima are also coming out. John Muckler has been mixing his lines for 3 periods in this hockey game.
Just to avoid the checking of the Winnipeg Jets, but they revert back to their old lines when they get a little flow going. You saw Messier out there with Anderson and Simpson in the last shift.
Muckler wants to avoid the McDermott at Fenton line against the Messier line. 14:54 remaining in the period. Back at the line, Dave Ellett. Cross ice, Olsen lets the shot go. And that ricochets off the glass and all the way down the ice. And again, Bill Ranford is complaining that Paul Fenton ran into him. And I think with some justification.
Paul Fenton went right to the goal, as he always does, and Olsen tried to score. He wasn't looking for the tip in. He had lots of room. He tried to score and shot it wide.
Mark gets away from Dave Ellett. He simply fires it out of the zone. Kevin Lowe tried to move it out, gets it back again as it was knocked in by McDermott. Ahead to Klima. Klima, he of the great moves and the excellent shot. This time it deflects over the glass and out of play. Edmonton hanging on to a 1-goal lead.
Frederick Olsen has a great scoring chance, but watch Paul Fenton here. Look at all the time Olsen has, and he misses the net. And watch Fenton after the shot. Give Ranford the shot. Kerry Fraser was right there. There was no Oilers around. And I can see why Bill Ranford was upset.
Ron Cherry talked about Wayne Gretzky calling the officials' attention to too many men on the ice. That time Kevin Lowe was attempting to get Kerry Fraser's attention to the fact that Fenton had crashed into Bill Ranford. Centering pass, and it's fired wide by Messier, but there's a penalty coming up. I think Thomas Steen will be going off. The extra attacker is out there for Edmonton. And as it's touched by Steen, the whistle goes, and the Edmonton Oilers, with 13:47 left in the period, will have a power play. Taglianetti is going off.
Elbow.
We care about.
Peter Taglianetti takes an elbowing penalty. I thought it was going to be a hooking penalty on Thomas Steen in front of the net, but here's the elbow right there. Kerry Fraser's got his back to the play. He's looking at the elbow, not the hook.
Loose puck. Dug out by Anderson. He faked as though he was going back to the point. Now does give it to Smith, to Ruotsalainen, to Messier. For Simpson, he's knocked down by Dave McAway. Doug Smale breaks up. He had a little trouble controlling it. Decides to go back into his own zone to Tepon Yumina. Cross ice to Donnelly. Donnelly puts it down into Edmonton territory. 1:30 remaining in the penalty to Peter Taglianetti. Messier crosses the line. He's checked, but Ruotsalainen has it. Ruotsalainen goes rink wide. Steve Smith fakes. Ruotsalainen, they move it around. Now over to Messier. Smith couldn't get a shot away. Puck back to the Winnipeg net, picked up by Tepon Yumina. He banks it off the boards and down the ice.
The Oilers with good puck movement, but no shots. They moved it around the outside. Finally, they made a bad pass, and the Jets got it down.
48 seconds remaining in the penalty. Mark Lamb gives it to Ruotsalainen. The Oilers change their power play unit. Dave Ellett gains control in his own zone. He flips it the length of the ice. The Oilers having problems against some good penalty killing by the Winnipeg Jets. Ben Ashton and Mark Kumpel are out there now for Winnipeg. Gary Curry, who scored the winning goal in Game 6. Stop, the race for the loose puck. Ashton is going to go in alone. Then Ashton. Oh, what a save by Ranford. The puck got past him, and he reached back with his stick to get it again. Brad Ashton with a glorious opportunity to tie it with a short-handed goal. initially by Ranford, but he reached back and managed to save it. Dale Hawerchuk attempted to put it back to the point. There was nobody in position. The Jets at full strength.
He was able to stay on his feet. That was the key. He stood on his feet, was able to reach back with his stick and pull that one out.
Here comes Kozlowski. He's checked by McTavish. Evans picks it up. A long shot is gloved and held by Bill Ranford. Well, Ranford is the hero of the moment for these Edmonton fans. Well, I think Brent Ashton has had 3 breakaways in this series. He's only been able to score once. His most recent, stopped by Bill Ranford not once but twice as the puck appeared to be trickling in.
Ashton tries to do the same thing Mark Lamb did. Looks, tries to go through the legs, but Ranford doesn't fall all the way down and reaches back with a stick. Beauregard butterflied, and Lamb was able to slide it through. Watch Ranford, watch his legs. Starts to open up, but one's still there, gets enough of it, and there, the right hand back with the stick and pulls it out.
Good thing he holds that stick in his right hand. Long shot by Bo Mantha. It's gloved by Ranford, and the puck put down the ice. Cronin off the boards to Mantha. Mantha's intercepted by Messier. Mantha gets it back again. Beauregard out of his net to play it around the boards. Oilers get there first. Anderson forces the turnover to Craig Simpson. He's checked by Cronin. Now Messier steals it. Back to Roots Alignment. Shot wide of the net. Beauregard out of the net to grab the puck in front of Glenn Anderson.
That's a good play by Stefan Beauregard. His team running around in their own zone. Cronin and Mantha having trouble with the forechecking of Messier, Anderson, and Simpson. Beauregard wisely held onto the puck.
Only 22 years of age, Stefan Beauregard called up by the Winnipeg Jets from Fort Wayne for a game on January 19th against Red Army. He played extremely well in the 3-1 Winnipeg victory, but he went back to Fort Wayne and got the call on the 23rd of January.
A lot of people felt going into the season that Tom Draper would be the #1 goaltender for the Winnipeg Jets. It wasn't to be so.
10:41 remaining in the second. The Oilers leading 2-1. A scoring opportunity on that Edmonton power play belonged to Brent Ashton of the Winnipeg Jets on that breakaway. Doug Evans trying to hit Hawerchuk with a breakaway pass. Racing up quickly was Kozlowski to shoot it into the Edmonton zone as Hawerchuk was tied up in the neutral area. Here comes Lamb, looking for Tikkanen. Intercepted, bounces to Curry. He can't do anything with it. Tikkanen races into the corner after. He's intercepted by Newman. Ahead to Evans. He has Kozlowski and Hawerchuk with him. Hawerchuk, long shot, glove save by Bill Ranford. A spectacular effort by Ranford, but I think it was going wide of the net. 9:57 remains in the period. And now with the Stanley Cup update, here's Scott.
Don, Minnesota has pulled to within 2 of Chicago now in the third period in Game 7 of this Norris semifinal. Dave Manson could not clear it for Chicago. Wolf Dolan scored on Greg Millen on a wrist shot from close in. It's 4-2 Hawks now as they bid to host St. Louis in Game 1 of the Norris final on Wednesday night.
Harry Fraser skated over to the Winnipeg Jet bench. I don't know whether he was issuing a warning or what was happening, but he went over to say something.
He was issuing a warning to Dale Hawerchuk. Hawerchuk very vocal on the bench. Harry Fraser gave him a break, came over, gave him a warning, and Bob Murdoch immediately was speaking into Hawerchuk's ear saying, "Calm down, Dale, we can't afford to lose you now."
As we have mentioned before, Dale Hawerchuk, Thomas Steen, and Randy Carlyle have alternated throughout the season, each of them going in 5-game blocks wearing the C as team captain. In the playoffs, of course, they don't have Randy Carlyle. He's out with an injury. So as a result, Hawerchuk and Thomas Steen have alternated wearing the C. 9:57 remains in the period.
Watch this. Leaded with more octane and cleaning additives than regular.
Try our new SO menu.
Cute. I'll get back to work. Do they take reservations?
Well, in less than 48 hours, the Edmonton Oilers or Winnipeg Jets will host the Los Angeles Kings in the division final. I imagine the Kings are hoping that this game goes to about 3 or 4 overtime periods.
Even if it doesn't, it's pretty hard for these teams to refocus on another series with basically only 1 day off. You've been so geared up to the Winnipeg Jets or the Edmonton Oilers, depending on who you are, but now you have to readjust your checking, your power play, your penalty killing. A totally different strategy for a new series in only about 24 hours.
And that opening game of the Smythe Division Final on Wednesday night will be seen coast to coast on Hockey Night in Canada. They had problems with that Edmonton Oiler net, and that was the reason for the delay. Some of the little knobs and magnets that support that goal had come loose.
Greg Kozlowski lined up at the face-off circle, and Jerry Bochy came over, and you see Kozlowski and Huddy having words.
Olsen couldn't accept that pass back at the point from Paul Fenton, but he does make a quick turn to give it ahead to Ashton. Here's Fenton going for the net. Defending it, bounced away from him. Back of the goal to Ashton. Ashton the wraparound. The save by Ranford. Back at the point. Allen with a shot. Saved by Ranford. The Jets with some pressure in this second period. Pass intercepted by Olsen for Paul Fenton. Fenton tried to give it to Ashton. It was behind him. Ranford way out of the net to play it off the boards and down the ice.
No, Ranford, you can see how well he's playing, how confident he looks. Up on his feet after every shot. Perfect position.
Buchberger steals it. He's checked. Kleeman gets it back at the goal. He tries to backhand it. It's at the side of the net. Tavish pries it loose. Tavish being checked by Ashton, but still has the puck. Now he gives it to Kleeman. Back to McTavish. To Kleeman. He couldn't get a shot away. Winnipeg's Dave Ellett starts out. Behind the play, McDermott and McTavish pushing and shoving as that puck is deflected up over the glass and out of play.
Greg McTavish is checking his chin after that little exchange with Paul McDermott. McDermott has really been a thorn in the side of the Edmonton Oilers in this series. He has played exceptionally well, a physical presence in there, tying up Craig McTavish. Here's the chance. McTavish tries to pass to Peter Klima. Goes off the end of his stick. Now watch McDermott and McTavish right there, jabbing at each other. A little punch by McTavish, a shot by McDermott. I've got a hold of your stick, you got a hold of my sweater. No penalties called by Kerry Fraser.
Despite the fact that this has been a very physical series, there have only been 2 fights. One involving 2 rather unlikely participants, Paul Fenton and Craig McTavish. The other, Kelly Buchberger and Sean Cronin. Joe Murphy, shot, saved by Beauregard. Another shot by Kevin Lowe is wide, and that ricochets all the way back into the Edmonton zone.
And both those fighting majors, they could have quite easily just given 2 minutes for roughing. There wasn't any punches though.
Here come the orders. Jelena working against Mantha. Mantha finally forces it back to the blue line, and Jelena, the 19-year-old, loses control. Pass intercepted by McElwain. For Kumpel. Off the boards to McElwain, but it's dumped right out of the zone by Craig Muni. For Adam Gray. Graves is spun around. Mantha ties him up. Goes to the corner and they wind up on top of it, forcing the face-off with 7:55 left in the second period. Edmonton leads by 1. Face-off to the left of Stefan Beauregard. The Jets have outshot the Oilers 13-11. Both coaches downplaying the importance of home ice for a 7th game of the series. Although I think Mark Messier had the best line. He said, I think I'd sooner be playing at home.
John Buckler did his job. With all the press, he said that the Winnipeg Jets had so much pressure in Game 6. I think the Jets believed it the way they played in the first period of that game.
They were down 3-0 in that game after the first period. It could easily have been 5 or 6-0. But to Winnipeg's credit, they came back to tie it before Yari Curry scored the winning goal. Greg McTavish spins around and fires a shot wide. Smith with a shot, gloved and held by Beauregard. In this second period, the two teams have taken turns applying the pressure.
It has gone in waves. The Oilers came out strongly in the first 5 minutes of the period. Then it was the Winnipeg Jets, and now we have the Oilers with some pressure. Shot from Steve Smith with nobody in front. Beauregard had no trouble with that one. The Oilers defensemen, when they pinch in, they've been able to put a little pressure on the Jets. Here's the shot from Smith. Goes by McDermott, a partial screen, but there's no Oilers anywhere in sight. Beauregard hangs on.
7:42 is the time left in the second period. All 3 goals in the opening period. Glenn Anderson and Mark Lamb scoring for Edmonton. Thomas Steen for the Winnipeg Jets. Hawerchuk against Messier. Evans and Kozlowski out there with Hawerchuk. Long shot from the point. It trickles through. Beauregard goes back. So there's been one at each end. The shot got away from Ranford, but he reached back with his stick to knock away the trickling puck on a Brent Ashton breakaway. That shot from the point got through the pads of Beauregard. He managed to dive back and fall on the trickling puck off the shot by Steve Smith.
Points of face-offs in your own zone, right back to Steve Smith. Messier and Simpson go to the net to screen Beauregard. Got a piece of it, enough to keep it from rolling in. Look at the crowd in front of Beauregard on this one. He goes down, and there's the puck. I don't think that one, they would have had to sweep a little bit to get that one over the line.
Face off to the right of Beauregard. The draw comes to Smith. There's his shot. Knocked down in front by Allen. Ashton works out against Rutsalainen. Long shot. Picked up in the corner by the Jets. A centering attempt. McDermott was looking for Ashton. Is broken up by Rutsalainen. Ashton now gets it in the corner. Then he's bumped by Smith. The Jets battling to get that puck out front. But the Edmonton defenseman doing a good job of tying them up, and finally the whistle goes as they have it in their skates, and there'll be a face-off in the Edmonton zone. Brent Ashton will be talking with Scott Oak during our second intermission, and I'm sure the first question Scott will be asking will be about that breakaway.
This all starts when the Edmonton Oilers defense don't communicate with Bill Ranford. Then the Jets have some pressure. Here's Smith tying up Ashton. Trying not to take the holding penalty. He has 2 sticks. Notice Smith has got his own and Ashton's. Lets Ashton's go so he doesn't take the penalty.
You know, you talked earlier about Dave Ellett sometimes losing his concentration. There have been suggestions that the same problem occurs with Steve Smith.
It does, and you can see it throughout the game, and it's usually just once or twice a game where he just makes a play where he's not thinking. And he makes just usually a defensive blunder in his own zone, an ill-advised pass, or just some mental error that sometimes costs him.
Olsen racing over to try and keep it onside. He does. Charlie Huddy gets it back to the net. Mark Messier. Messier almost lost it. Charlie Huddy was there to help out. Dave Ellett now for the Jets. To Doug Smale. Smale can't do anything with it. The Jets gain control again. Steen to Smale. Back to Steen. Steen gets it over to Helmick. Saved by Ranford. Helmick in the slot area. I'm sure he thought he had to let a quick shot go, but he had time to move in even closer.
He had loads of time, but he shot the wrist shot. Bill Ranford again in perfect position just to get hit by that puck.
Larry Curry dumps it out of the zone. The Jets have had by far the better scoring opportunities in this second period. And you have that Elnup opportunity to the breakaway of Brent Ashton, but so far Bill Ranford has kept them off the scoreboard in period 2. 5:59 is the time remaining. Back after it goes Craig Munich. He's being watched by Doug Evans. along the boards. Tikkanen chops it out of the zone.
Tikkanen a good play, good smart defensive play. You get that puck 3 feet from the blue line. You have to make sure that it goes out.
Kevin Lowe loses it. Rink wide pass for Doug Evans. Tikkanen got just enough of him to form off stride and prevent him from getting to that loose puck.
Evans at the end of the shift. I'm surprised he didn't go for the change. Couldn't reach, couldn't skate for that puck. Just went harmlessly into the corner.
Jelena bangs it off the boards. Tipped in by Taglianetti. And his pass in is knocked down. Back comes Curry. Curry shot, save. The big rebound. A spin-around effort by Graves. And Beauregard got a piece of that. There's a penalty coming up as Jelena is flattened along the boards. And the Winnipeg Jets will be sending a player to the penalty box. 4:57, or is there a penalty call in the play? Jelena is down, but I'm not sure whether Carey Fraser called a penalty.
There's going to be an elbowing penalty. Jelena is down.
And now Carey Fraser moves off to the penalty box. As Jelena is still down, Doug Evans has gone off with 4:57 remaining in the period.
Jelena getting up slowly. Here's Momanta, and here comes Evans. Look at the elbow and the forearm and the high stick. Right in the side of the head. And Evans is in the penalty box.
So the Edmonton Oilers get their second power play of the period.
Doug Evans in the penalty box for elbowing. We saw it. Hit Martin Jelena heavily into the boards. The Oilers won the power play. Here's moments ago Beauregard, and look at him looking. Went through the arm, hit the post, and then Graves with the spinorama just shot it wide. Curry is such a great shooter. Had about 2 inches short side, through Beauregard's arm, but hit the post.
Now the Oilers hope this power play will be more productive than their last. They almost gave up a shorthanded goal. Brent Ashton was unable to beat Brantley. The Jets have done a good job penalty killing. They get some help from Mark Messier there as he fired it outside the line and trying to get it back to the point for Steve Smith. Smith racing in after it. Now he moves back to the point. There's a shot. Beauregard with the leg flashing out to kick it away. Roots the line and keeps it in. Messier. Simpson going to the front of the net. Decides to go to the point. Smith with a shot. Ryan Anderson. Took it off the end boards. Tries to wrap around. And Beauregard made the save there. Anderson initially had taken it off the end boards and tried to fire it into the empty net, but hit the side of the goal.
Some good puck movement and a good shot by Steve Smith. He was trying to play it off the board.
Here's Ashley. Stealing it again. Long shot saved by Bill Rampant.
Talking about a mental error. There's Steve Smith tried that diagonal pass. He didn't even throw it hard. And Brent Ashton was right there to pick it up.
48 seconds left in the penalty. Gary Curry for Lamb, and Lamb driving to the net. Couldn't convert that centering pass. Randy Gregg. Long shot. Rebound. Lamb tried to put it up top, but he was checked. Waited just a little too long, and Dave Ellett had time to get on him. 23 seconds left in the penalty. Gary Curry gives it to Randy Gregg. Long shot, it deflects to the corner. Curry back to the line. Gregg with a shot. Blocked by Ellett. Shot by Tikkanen. Knocked down by Beauregard. And back comes Brent Ashton. Ashton, long shot right on as the penalty to Evans has expired.
Very good power play by the Edmonton Oilers that time. They had some good chances. They were moving the puck well, and Stefan Beauregard made some big saves for the Jets.
Well, they're ruling that contact with that puck was made with a high stick as Craig McTavish crashes into Mo Mantha in the corner. And the two continue to exchange words with 2:43 left in the period. With a Stanley Cup update, here's Scott.
Don, Chicago has all but wrapped up the series with Minnesota now. They've gone ahead 5-2. Greg Gilbert, who's been strong for the Hawks in the playoffs, gets the goal, scoring on John Casey, and the Minnesota goal on a backhand. With about 2.5 minutes to go in regulation time, the Hawks are in front by 3.
And it appears that Greg Millen, who has received the hook so often in this series, is still Mike Keenan's goaltender.
Starting and finishing goaltender tonight.
2:43 remains in the second period. It's still 2-1 Edmonton. And this series has been exactly that close. 4 of the games have gone into the third period with the score tied. 2 of the games have gone into overtime. In only the opening game, when Winnipeg scored into an empty net, has there been more than a 1-goal difference in the final score.
2 evenly matched teams, very close in the regular season. I think some people tend to forget that the Winnipeg Jets had a great regular season this year.
Thomas Steen, who scored the Winnipeg goal in the first period, gives it to Allen. Allen had trouble controlling it. Off the boards for Steen. Cross-ice pass. Knocked away from Mo Mantle by Peter Kleeman.
See the first man back after Kleeman stole that puck. It was Dale Howardchuk that cut off Peter Kleeman.
We talked about the line juggling of John Muckler. Bob Murdoch has done the same. Dale Howardchuk is out there on the wing with Thomas Steen and Pat Elmer. Buckberger is checked. Winnipeg Jets move it out. Howardchuk gives it across ice to Taglianetti. Taglianetti works along the boards, trying to spot someone going for the net. And he's having trouble trying to move that puck with 1:50 remaining in the period as he's checked by Ruotsalainen.
See, there's Paul McDermott again, trying to draw a penalty, trying to get Craig McTavish to react. And McTavish would have no part of it. You were talking about Craig McTavish, a doubtful starter. He's played all 80 games the last 3 years in a row. Every playoff game for the Edmonton Oilers. If there's any way at all that he can get out there, you know Craig McTavish is going to be part of that starting lineup.
McTavish continuing to exchange words, this time with Taglianetti. And as he skates past that Winnipeg bench, he has more to say. 2-1, the Oilers lead. Game 7 of the Smythe Division semifinal. The final opens on Wednesday night. Los Angeles Kings playing the winner of this game in the winner's home rink, either at Northlands Coliseum or the Winnipeg Arena. And we'll have it for you on Hockey Night in Canada. McElwain tried to take a shot, and it bounced by. Kept in at the line by Sean Cronin. McElwain. Back of the net for Paul Kenton, but McTavish gets the puck. He's checked by Paul McDermott. Cronin pinched in from the point. He was unable to keep it in, but he sent Glenn Anderson flying. Here's Kenton. Back to McElwain. His quick shot goes wide. McDermott knocked down in the corner. Cronin has the point, manages to keep it in. Charlie Huddy hangs it off the boards, kept in by Fenton. Fenton gets it across to McDermott. It bounced away from him. Now the Jets pressuring the Oilers. Kept in at the point again. The Oilers having all sorts of trouble moving up the zone. We're into the final minutes of the period. Fenton bucks his man at the side of the net. McElwain tried to kick it free, but it was knocked down the ice.
Good pressure by the Winnipeg Jets, and against the Edmonton Oilers, big line of Charlie Huddy and Randy Gregg that have missed and pinched in. The Jets had some good pressure.
38 seconds remaining. Esa-Tikkanen, long shot, Beauregard. Drops it at the side of the goal for Sean Cronin. He banks it off the boards, racing after it is Howardchuk. There's the shot, saved by Ranford. Steve Smith takes it to safety. Up along the boards, kept in by Evans. Smith will try and come out the other way. Goes cross ice to Tikkanen. 16 seconds left in the period. Race for the puck in the Edmonton zone. Smith is taken in against the boards. Evans back to the net for Ellis. His shot right on. Ranford makes the save. 2 seconds left. Long shot by Tikkanen wide as the siren sounds.
Some good pressure by the Winnipeg Jets in the last 2 minutes, and not for Bill Ranford. They would have been rewarded with a goal.
18-17, the shots on goal favoring the Edmonton Oilers. All the scoring in this hockey game in the opening period. There you see the Oilers with a 12-10 edge in second period shots on goal. The score at the end of the second period is Edmonton 2, Winnipeg 1.
Meet the Cambers.
Hold on to a 2-1 lead over the Jets. Brent Ashton basked in the glory in game 1 of this series because his third period goal was the winner. His contribution throughout has been significant, but we'll forgive you if your concentration for this interview is not at its peak, because I suspect you may still be thinking about that second period breakaway that Bill Ranford stopped you on.
Well, I got going in there and I laid the puck down and tried to go 5-hole on him, and it was going across the line, but he was able to reach back and get it. So, it's a one-on-one situation, and hopefully there'll be another one.
Strategy all season for the Jets has seemed to have been stay close and hope to steal it in the third. I heard some of your teammates heading into the room saying we got him right up our alley. I'm not sure you'd agree with that, but you're still within reach in this game, very much so.
Well, definitely. We get better as the game goes on. I think we've been a third period team for the whole year, and we come out and play our best period in the third. So right now, it's right up our alley, so we're looking forward to it.
You and your line mates, Fenton and McDermott, have generally been able to pester the Oilers in this series.
Well, we try to get it deep. That Paul Fenton and Paul McDermott are both hard workers, and when we're working it deep in the corners and behind the net, we're to get chances, and that's where we play our best hockey.
You have done yourselves proud in this series overall. What must you do now in the third period? Because not many of the Jets have been in seventh and deciding games in Stanley Cup playoffs.
Well, I think it's just a matter of playing our same game. Keep skating, keep moving the puck, and we're to get our chances. Be patient and not open things up yet. It's still a tight hockey game. It's only a one-shot game. You have been on 7 NHL teams in a fairly distinguished 11-year career, and you say you're not buying a house in Winnipeg, or at least you haven't yet. Well, when you get moved around like this, Saskatoon's my home, so you tend to have to put roots down somewhere. And I've enjoyed all my moves. I mean, I've been in some great cities, met a lot of great people, and there's not much security in professional sports, so you just have to take it year by year. Thank you, Brent, and we'll let you get back to the room now and return your focus to the third period of this game, where you'll have to come from behind if you want to stay alive this season. Our second intermission will continue in just a moment. Welcome back to Northlands Coliseum. No scoring in the second period. The Oilers continue to hold on to a 2-1 lead over the Winnipeg Jets in the seventh and deciding game of this semifinal series. The Minnesota-Chicago game is now final. Chicago with 2 goals each from Presley and Roenick beat the North Stars 5-2, and the Hawks will now host St. Louis in the Norris final, game 1 Wednesday night at Chicago Stadium. The Blues have been waiting since Thursday night when they finished off the Leafs. Chicago takes this series from Minnesota. It goes the distance 4-3. In seventh and deciding games in their extensive NHL playoff history, the Oilers have gone 2-2. That is to say, they've won 2 and lost 2. The Jets have never had a chance to play a seventh and deciding game in the Stanley Cup playoffs. The closest they've ever come was 1987, when they took 6 games to finish off the Calgary Flames and advance to the second round. Only the second time in their NHL playoff history they've ever been to the second round. They have a chance to get there for the third time tonight, but they'll have to come from behind in the third period to do it. Right now, let's go upstairs to Don Whitman and John Garrett.
Well, Scott, both teams have proved earlier in this series that they are capable of coming from behind. John Garrett, we've talked about the speed of this series. Tonight, viewers aren't seeing these teams flying as they did through the first 6, and I think that's understandable. Both sides appear a little nervous, but they're very close in the checking department.
And both teams, the key players are trying to do so much. You look at Dale Howard checking, you look at Mark Messier, and every time they get the puck, they're trying to lug it and go through 5 players. And I really think that it's going to be one lucky bounce or one lucky break, because both teams are playing so well defensively, and both teams are so tentative. Defensemen aren't rushing like we've seen in the first 6 games. The defensemen aren't getting into the play. It's that neutral ice, checking, dump it in, and hope you get a break.
Well, after the criticism in Game 1, this game has been an opportunity for redemption for Oiler goaltender Bill Ranford.
And he has really played well. The last 2 minutes of that period, Dale Howard took a clean-cut breakaway and a technical save. Being an old goaltender, you can just see Ranford came out, cut down the angle. All he had to do was stand there. He stood there and got hit with the puck.
Well, the Oilers hold a 1-game lead, or 1-goal lead, as we head into the third period. Our Stanley Cup playoff coverage continues after this.
the winner of this series, of course, will meet the Los Angeles Kings. Al Murray's a scout for the Kings who's been advanced scouting this series. And Al, a good place to start would be a comment on the game tonight. How do you feel it's been?
Well, it's been a terrific game, like the whole series. You know, it's been so tight, and the scores have been close all the way through. The teams both skate so well and have so much offensive firepower that it's surprising the scores haven't been higher, but they've been playing good defense as well.
Is there any difference between the clubs?
I think Edmonton, you might say, has more star-type players, guys that can beat you individually, and Winnipeg might play a little better as a team, but both have great speed and take advantage of all their offense.
Were you surprised at the decision to go with Beauregard over Essensa?
Well, a little bit. Osenza had played so well, you know, the last game, and the seventh game such a big one, but Beauregard relieved him when he was injured so well and played well in his own games even when he lost, so it's been successful for Winnipeg all year, and I guess they're sticking with it.
How do the Kings match up against these two teams? If you were to formulate a game plan, what would you look at?
Well, I think right off the bat we're going to have to hope our players can stay as disciplined and as solid defensively as they did against Calgary, because one of the problems we had during the season is all the teams in our division are so quick that if you get caught up the ice, it's always 3-on-2s and 4-on-2s. And I think in the Calgary series our players really became disciplined and really took to the game plan that the coaches had put forward. So hopefully they'll stay just as disciplined in the next series.
As you look ahead to the third period, what would you think Winnipeg has to try and do? There have been very few shots in this game. How do they rally?
Well, I don't think Winnipeg really wants to change anything that they've done before. The other night they were down 3 goals and they just kept playing their game and were able to get back in it by capitalizing on any mistakes that Edmonton might have made. And I think that's the strength of Winnipeg, is that they are solid all the way up the ice, and as soon as you make a mistake, they take advantage of it. So I don't think they really have to change anything yet.
Quickly, say hi to home.
Yeah, I'd like to say hi to Laurie and Matt. I haven't seen them for a little while, so be seeing you soon.
Former coach of the University of Regina, so you know that's bound for Saskatchewan. It's 2-1 Edmonton leading at the end of 2 periods of play. The 1990 Stanley Cup playoffs on CBC return to the Northlands Coliseum. Game 7 between the Jets and the Oilers in a moment.
Share some of the feelings that Bill Radford and Stefan Beauregard must have as a former goaltender. Their thoughts going into the final 20 minutes.
And especially the tightness of this game, any mistake you make could cost your team the game. Bill Radford's definitely had faced the more difficult shots. Stefan Beauregard has been solid, but he hasn't been called upon to make the real big saves like Bill Radford.
2-1, the Edmonton Oilers lead the Winnipeg Jets. The Edmonton Oilers have twice taken a 2-goal lead into the third period. One game they won, the other they lost. Craig Simpson. It's his shot go off the linesman, and as a result, Glenn Anderson was offside at the Winnipeg blue line.
The Edmonton Oilers came out at the start of the second period and played probably their best 5 minutes of this game. They had some chances, they had some pressure. Craig Simpson going to the net was a big part of it. Really thought Messi, Simpson, and Anderson tried to set the tone for this third period.
Craig Simpson during regular season play wasn't as productive as he has been for the Oilers in previous years. Much of that was due to the fact that he didn't get many opportunities to work the power play.
A lot of times when players have sophomore seasons, especially at the end when nobody can keep track, they refer to their lack of power play time. I think Craig Simpson just struggled around the net. He could probably count his goal posts and the chances missed more than his lack of ice time.
However, in this series against Winnipeg, he has been their leading scorer with 4 goals. Forced back against Delman. Big flying pass deflects off Glenn Anderson up into the crowd. Some man has a souvenir. Glenn Anderson was shut out through the first 6 games. Finally came up with a goal tonight. He rebounded from a very poor 1988-89 season. More than double his goal production this season.
And an assist on Mark Messier's game winner. Game 5 back here at the Northlands Coliseum. It was a pretty play, 2-on-1, and Anderson and Messier played so often together. It was a perfect pass, and Messier made no mistake.
Well, wherever you're looking in tonight, coast to coast on Hockey Night in Canada, we hope you're enjoying the action from Northlands Coliseum. And will join us on Wednesday night for Game 1 of the Smythe Division Final. The Los Angeles Kings against either the Jets or the Oilers. Peter Taglianetti shoots it in. Randy Gregg moves it up along the boards. However, they don't get it out. Smale took it away from Tegan. Up front for Smale, and a quick shot just goes wide. Howardchuk managed to dig back from Lewis as he and Kozlowski were in there forechecking. Manta keeps it in. Kozlowski along the boards, gets it to Smale. Smale tried to center it, knocked down by Huddy. Smale gets it again. Can't get it out front. And finally, the Oilers, Gary Curry knocks it out.
Big chance for the Winnipeg Jets, and in a game where you're not getting a whole lot of chances, you have to make the goaltender stop. There's Smale just shot it wide.
Brent Ashton brought it in across the line, but Peter Taglianetti was trapped offside.
Peter Taglianetti took a little shot at Esa Tikkanen. Tikkanen held on to Taglianetti so he would be offside.
I wonder if that's a new card for Bob Murdoch. Every game in Edmonton, previous 3, the day of the game, he has gone out and purchased a new card.
I would think that he would for Game 7. The Edmonton Oilers changed hotels when they went back to Winnipeg. They lost the first 2 games in Winnipeg, and when they went back, they changed hotels.
I should also point out that each of those new ties has been the same color, red, predominantly. Kevin Lowe puts it in high. Beauregard grabs it, but an Edmonton player was offside.
I wonder if Bob Murdoch has to buy them separately, or if he can go for the 2-for-1 sale somewhere.
Well, he said there's only 1 win per tie.
There's that offside rule again. Not the great on Stephen Beauregard.
The triumvirate behind the Winnipeg bench, headman Bob Murdoch, Alpo Suonen, and Claire Drake. Back after it goes Fenton. He clears the zone. Ashton picks it up. Gets away from McTavish, bounces it off the boards, racing in after it. He's checked. McDermott is also bodied. Numminen tried to keep it in, unsuccessful against Buchberger. Here comes Klima against Donnelly, and Donnelly checks him and takes him out of the play. McTavish had gone for the net, but Buchberger couldn't get it to him as he tried to center that puck from the corner.
Another good play by Gord Donnelly against one of the best offensive players on the Edmonton Oilers. Peter Klima one-on-one, and Donnelly made the play.
Klima tried to move it back to the point. He wasn't aware that the Oilers were making a line change. The Jets also made a change. Elnick is knocked down. Back comes Dave Ellett. Ellett gives it to Olesen. Olesen goes to the net. Evans tried to let the shot go, but it hit an Edmonton player and bounces to the corner. 17:15 is the time left in the period. Cranford comes out of his net to play it. Thomas Steen. To Elnick. Elnick tried to center it. He was checked by Ruotsalainen. Out comes Joe Murphy. He has Graves and Jelena with him. Jelena takes the feed, going in. Couldn't get a shot away. He fanned on it. And it took a moment, but Beauregard finally grabbed the loose puck. Tonight's game is coming to you from Edmonton.
Joe Murphy makes a nice play to Martin Jelena in the middle. And Jelena dances right in. He's got a full head of speed. He's hooked at the last minute. I think he was trying to deke. Olsen tied up his stick. Easy save for Beauregard, but then he mishandles it. As he's lucky that the Oilers skated by it, he was able to cover it up.
Stefan Beauregard, the rookie who did not join the Winnipeg Jets until late in January with the starting assignment in this all-important 7th game. Mantha was checked, but Howard Chuck followed up on the play. To Taglianetti, a long shot. Ranford steers it to the corner. Randy Gregg ahead to Messier. Howard Chuck is on him quickly, but Messier slides it across to Charlie Huddy. Long shot off the stick of Mantha. Picked up in the corner by Taglianetti. Now he goes rink wide. Howard Chuck couldn't pick it up off the boards, and the Oilers play it back to the Winnipeg line. Mantha moves it ahead to Kozlowski. Over to Howard Chuck. Howard Chuck trying to go to his backhand, starts the puck to the goal mouth. Kozlowski was tied up by Huddy, and Ranford grabs the puck.
Good positioning by Charlie Huddy. Kept Greg Kozlowski to the outside. His body between Kozlowski and the puck. That enabled his goaltender Bill Ranford to cover up.
16:08 is the time remaining in the third. The Oilers leading 2-1, all 3 goals in the opening period.
Here's a chance. Now watch Huddy. Look at the body positioning. It's Huddy between the puck and the front of his net. He keeps Kozlowski to the outside, and it's an easy save for Ranford.
A bit of a clinic for defenseman from Charlie Huddy.
Defenseman school. You always keep that guy to the outside, keep your body between the puck and the net.
Dave McElway motioning Mark Kumple to move behind him. The Jets have done some juggling on their 4th line because they have 7 defensemen dressed for this game. Kumple hasn't seen a great deal of ice time. Puck rode up on the dasher, was finally picked up by the Jets, and they break out. Ashton has Kumple with him. Ashton to Kumple. He tried to get it back to Ashton, and it was blocked by Kevin Lowe. Good defensive play by the veteran rear guard of the Edmonton Oilers. A whistle on the play as they had tied it up along the boards with 15:39 remaining in the third. Well, the Smythe Division Final opens on Wednesday night. The Los Angeles Kings will be at either Edmonton or Winnipeg. We'll have it for you on Hockey Night in Canada. And then on Thursday, the Adams Division Final, the Montreal Canadiens against either the Boston Bruins or Hartford Whalers.
Will Ray Bourque play in that Game 7?
That is a big question as that series returns to Boston, the Hartford Whalers, with such an outstanding road record this season. From the scrum, the puck comes back to Olsen. Olsen trying to work in close, now slides it back. There's the shot, and it's blocked. Back to Allen, he lets it go, it's blocked. Edmonton defensemen have been dropping in front of those shots, preventing them from getting through. Craig Muni with a big save on Allen.
Right from the faceoff again, the Jets have done a good job this whole series winning draws in the offensive zone.
Kevin Lowe gives it back to Craig Muni. Big ride for Curry, he lost control of it. Evans takes a hit from Muni and goes down. Lowe plays it ahead to Tikkanen. Tikkanen to McTavish. McTavish tried to control it in the zone. He's checked, gets it back again. Tikkanen lets it go, he scores!
Both teams look. Here, Craig McTavish and Yari Curry. Watch Curry go right through the screen, right there. And McTavish just slaps it over to Tikkanen. Now, Beauregard doesn't get set. You have to get set early. He didn't get set in time, and Tikkanen, with a perfect wrist shot, just snaps it. Just inside the post.
Esa Tikkanen with his 4th goal of the playoffs, and what a big goal that is from McTavish and Curry at 5:09, and the Oilers have a 2-goal lead.
And that is Craig McTavish's first point of the playoffs.
Well, there are some fans here all the way from Australia cheering this one on. I got a call today at the Hotel John from some fans in the Bahamas who said they were watching tonight or would be watching tonight via satellite. They had watched the other games in the series via the satellite there.
And they were coming up and they wanted 3 tickets.
They said the weather was a whole lot better down there than it is here in Edmonton. steal. Gives it to Klima. Klima is checked. Ashton picks up the puck. Now the Winnipeg Jets certainly have their work cut out for them now if they hope to advance to the next round. They trail by 2 goals. And they have not been able to capitalize on the scoring opportunities they have had. And there's a penalty coming up here as Paul Fenton is dumped. 14:10 is the time remaining in the period. Well, if the Winnipeg Jets needed a chance to get back into the hockey game, it's been provided. Randy Gregg with a cross-checking penalty and an unsportsmanlike conduct call. So the Winnipeg Jets will have a 4-minute power play.
And you won't see this very often. Randy Gregg losing his cool. Fenton right there, trips Huddy, and then Fenton goes to the net. He's halfway down. Gregg gives him a little shot. There's a cross-checking penalty. Now watch Gregg. After the cross-check penalty, right here, he skates right over and he bumped into Carey Fraser. I'm surprised that he's still in this game.
Coming into this game, the Jets had the 4th most effective power play in the playoffs. They had had only 1 power play in tonight's game, and it failed to click. They really didn't have a good scoring opportunity with the man advantage. Back to the line to Alec. Alec fakes. Gets it cross ice to Olsen. Into Helmet. Here's Alec. To Howard-Chuck. Howard-Chuck to Steen. Favorite play for the Jets. Steen, a backhander saved by Ranford. Howard-Chuck went driving for the net and the loose puck. But the whistle had already gone. The Jets like to get it to Steen at the side of the net, and he goes cross ice to Helmet coming in from behind the play.
In front of the net, picks the defenseman. The LA Kings used to do this when they had the triple crown line. It used to be Taylor and Charlie Simmer working up in front, and Dion would come around behind the net, bring it out in front, like Steen did there, and take the shot.
3:23 remaining in the power play. The Jets are going to change up their power play unit.
Here's the replay. Now watch the player in front of the net. Here comes Steen, and they just picked the defenseman. It's Tikkanen and Muni can't come across, and then Ranford comes out, gets it, and that's why Tikkanen went at Howard-Chuck, because he was going in for the rebound on Ranford.
13:33 left in the period. 3:23 in the double minor to Randy Gregg. Rand Ashton, McDermott, and Fenton are up there for Winnipeg. Kivinen and Mantha back at the points. Tavish and Lamb are out with Huddy and Smith in a penalty-killing role for Edmonton.
See the Winnipeg Jets warning, or at least putting the idea in Carey Fraser's mind that watching front of the net, they would mind having a 2-man advantage.
Tavish wins the draw. Rally Huddy will have time, and he'll whistle it down the ice.
Again, Craig McTavish doing such a great job on that faceoff. Won it clean, and then Charlie Huddy just rifled it down.
Loose puck picked up by Yari Curry. Can't get around Teko Numminen, but gets the puck back. Then is checked. Jets having some problems now in their own zone. Finally, it's Ashton wheeling out. Ashton gains the line. In front, saved by Ranford off Fenton. What a big save that was for Ranford as he came across. And Brent Ashton must feel he's snake-bit in this game. Knocked down by the Oilers. They try and dump it down the ice, but it goes out of play.
He just robbed Paul Fenton in front of that net. What a save by Ranford, and he stayed on his feet. Lateral movement by Ranford. The Oiler defense got caught out of the play. Steve Smith came sliding across. Couldn't get the puck. The The Jets have the 2-on-1 right in front of Ranford. Here comes Ashton. Now watch Steve Smith. Where is he going? Over to kiss the boards. And here's Ashton out the fence. Now watch Ranford. Stays on his feet, keeps the stick on the ice, makes the save. Watch Ranford's positioning. Stick on the ice, he comes across. Pass comes across, keeps that stick down right there. Benton takes a shot. Big save by Bill Ranford.
Well, as critical as they may have been of Bill Ranford after Game 1, they'll be singing his praises if the Edmonton Oilers win this game tonight, because he has been the difference.
Well, in Game 1, every shot was an adventure for him. Even the long shot from outside, he was mishandling. He's got grown in confidence and he's played a lot better.
Here comes Messier with McTavish going for the net. Messier takes it back to the goal. They jam at it. It looked as though the red light flashed for a moment, but did not stay on, and with McTavish in front of the net, Beauregard is able to keep it out of there.
Cute little play by Mark Messier to Craig McTavish. It looked like Messier was going to bring it around behind the net. Threw it out in front to McTavish, but Beauregard held his ground and made the save. There goes Dave Ellett out of the play. Now watch Messier. Looks like he's going to go around, then just flips it back to McTavish. And Beauregard makes the save and keeps it out. Watch Beauregard. He doesn't know where it is. He reaches back with his glove hand. Watch his glove hand. Right here. Whoop. No, it's not behind me. I better reach out in front. Yep, got it.
2:09 remaining in the penalty to Randy Gray. Fired all the way down into the Edmonton zone. And then the Oilers send it the other way. Dale Howardchuck out there now with Steen and Elman. Too far for Thomas Steen. Steve Smith gets there for an icing call against Winnipeg. The Jets have just not been effective at all on this power play, and is it their ineffectiveness or the fine penalty killing of the Oilers?
The Oilers have picked it up a notch here on the penalty killing. Steve Smith did a good job there, beating Dave Ellett to that puck. Smith can't skate. Dave Ellett, one of the better skating defensemen in the league.
I don't think Don Cherry could afford to take the cut and pay.
But he'd be able to speak for a lot longer time. He wouldn't be confined to that 3 minutes.
Did you see him in a parliamentary debate? Question and answer period?
Every speech would be a filibuster.
11:54 left in the period. 1:44 in the penalty to Randy Gray. The Oilers lead the Jets. The winner will advance against the Los Angeles Kings in the opening game of the Smythe Division Final on Wednesday night, and we'll have it for you on Hockey Night in Canada. Check your local listings for the telecast time in your area. Humanen fires it in. Ranford will stop it back of the goal. Kevin Lowe whips it around the boards, but not out. Romantha back at the point. Long shot, just deflected wide. Ranford dives on it at the side of the net. And then Muni engages in some pushing and shoving with Paul Fenton. But linesman Jared Gauthier steps between them.
With all the guys driving to the net this series, we haven't had a whole lot of that pushing and shoving in front of the net. Both teams are so afraid to take foolish penalties because the games have been so close. We haven't had a blowout or a real one-sided game late in the game where the players feel it's get even time.
We remind you that in this playoff series, the Winnipeg Jets once enjoyed a 3-1 lead in games.
Here's the shot. Now watch Ranford get it. There's Muni and Fenton. And Fenton gives Lowe a little hook. There's Muni with the slash. Fenton and Muni give each other a little shove.
We talked earlier about Craig Simpson always taking up position in front of the net. Paul Fenton does the same thing on behalf of the Winnipeg Jets. McTavish again wins the draw. That's been vital for the Oilers in those face-offs in their own zone tonight.
Killing penalties in particular, and he's he's not just winning the draws, he's winning them cleanly, and his team has lots of time to get it out.
Manta following up on the play to Teppo Numminen. Back to Manta. There's the shot. Big rebound as it bounces up to the line. And Manta is unable to keep it in. 53 seconds left in the penalty to Randy Gregg.
Bill Ranford had no idea where that shot was. It hit Paul Fenton in the back and just went to the corner.
And the Oilers, to the delight of the crowd, are successful in clearing the zone. Numminen for Dave Allen. Allen fires it in. Steen takes his man out of the play. Howard tries to get it loose. It bounces in front and is cleared. Messier knocks it away from a Winnipeg defender, but can't do anything with it. The Jets bring it back in. Howard over to Thomas Steen. Back to the line. Dave Ellett tries to go across to Thomas Steen. It was wide and was knocked back to the line. Kept in by Ellett. Blocked there by Steve Smith. And it's fired down the ice just as Randy Gregg comes out of the penalty box.
Bill Ranford set that play up. He was a good puck number and got out quickly and fired it around the board.
Well, the Jets had a great opportunity with that double minor against Randy Gregg, but some very effective penalty killing by the Oilers.
The Jets just couldn't get it set up. The Oilers were very aggressive.
Shot blocked before it gets through. Craig Simpson had taken a big hit from Gord Donnelly, and there's a penalty coming up against Winnipeg. So 9:36 remaining in the period. The Edmonton Oilers will have a power play after the Winnipeg Jets failed to quick on a 4-minute minor against the Oilers.
Donnelly takes a foolish charging penalty at 10:28. Frustration starting to show on the Winnipeg Jets. They had the 4-minute power play. Here it comes. Watch Donnelly off the point. It's Craig Simpson from behind, and the referees are calling that more and more. You see more boarding calls, more charging calls. And Donnelly goes off. There's Bob Essensa. He has to be disappointed. I know you always feel when you're sitting on the bench, had you played, you could have made the difference.
Stefan Beauregard, in a surprise move to some, got the starting goaltending call tonight from Bob Murdoch. And he has faced 23 shots so far. He'll face more. He's got a day with the Oilers with a man advantage. Anderson leaves it for Simpson. Simpson from Messier. It bounced away from him. Messier was cutting in from the other side, and the Jets dump it down the ice. With 9 minutes remaining in the game, the Jets don't want to be defending. They want to be attacking, trailing by 2 goals.
They have had a couple of shorthanded chances tonight. Ashton had a breakaway shorthanded.
They are in that defensive posture as a result of this penalty. Manta succeeds finally in getting it out across the line. Anderson is hit. Manta. And for Ashton. Ashton circles, lets a shot go. Ranford has it bounce up into his equipment. I think it dropped in behind his pad. There it is.
See Ranford flip it up onto the back of his catching glove. You know he's on a roll. Perfect positioning again. Just let it hit him. When you're struggling, you always reach out for the puck. You find yourself reaching out and grabbing at it. Look at Ranford. Just solid as a rock. Stays down and controls the rebound.
When Bill Ranford is playing well, as most goaltenders are, he becomes somewhat cocky.
Oh, for sure. And you can tell when he's struggling. He looks shaky on every shot. Brent Ashton has had some chances here tonight. He's one of the better Winnipeg Jet players throughout this series.
Keep it going.
And the reason is because he's one of the best skaters in the league, even at his age.
He has had the opportunity to skate on a lot of ice in the National Hockey League, one of the most traded players in the game. Vancouver, Colorado, New Jersey, Minnesota, Quebec,
Oilers leading 3-1. Larry Curry. Off the boards for Tikkanen. Tikkanen centered it. It was deflected by Sean Cronin. And it's picked up by Doug Smale. He breaks up. Trying to go around Randy Gregg. He has McElwain with him. Smale with a shot as he spun around. And it was right on, but Brantford makes the save. 16 seconds left in the penalty. Larry Curry is forced to circle back into his own zone. And he almost caught Peter Klima on a breakaway. And it's an icing call against Edmonton with just 2 seconds left in the penalty to Donaldson.
And again, it was Klima jumping off the bench, quite similar to the Mark Graham breakaway. The Jets get caught up. They don't realize there's a player coming off the bench. Klima jumped off the bench and almost had a breakaway.
Peter Klima is one of the best skating players in the National Hockey League, and he is extremely clever with that stick.
Playing with Craig McTavish and Kelly Buchberger for most of the series. On the checking line, he's definitely the shooter when he's out there with McTavish and Buchberger.
He also authored a line that didn't endear him to many Winnipeggers when there were suggestions that he might be traded from Detroit to Winnipeg. He said, "I'd simply go back to Czechoslovakia."
Back then, he was going to have to defect back. There was no freedom at all in Czechoslovakia. He was going to defect back.
7:34 left in the period. 2 seconds in the penalty to Donnelly. McTavish has been a tower of strength in the face-off circle for Edmonton. He ties up Thomas Steen as the penalty expires. Jets, thinking that Donnelly might have moved back into position, tried to play it to the point, but he couldn't get there in time. Here's Elnick, unable to get around McTavish. Steen has it. He gets it to Elnick. Elnick, a backhand shot blocked by Craig Munich. 3 or 4 times tonight, Munich has dropped in front of shots, preventing them from getting through and full range.
The Oilers, all their players, they seem to slip back a little bit, but then they'll sacrifice the body to make the save.
Back goes Donnelly up along the boards for Pat Elnick. He dumped it out of the zone. It's a line in his back there for Edmonton. He tries to flip it ahead to Murphy. Murphy does manage to get it. Murphy finally is checked. Jets bring it up. However, they can't control it in the neutral area. Then they have to go back into their own zone to try and set up again. Ashton was looking for a lead pass, but it was intercepted by Messier. Here's Anderson racing up in the play. He gets it back to the line to Gregg. Saved by Beauregard. 6:17 remains in the third. The Oilers lead by 2.
New Esso ProTech engine oil with LXT. More stable, flows faster to help protect your engine even in extreme heat or cold. Esso ProTech. Don't wait until your car demands it.
John, you wonder if Mark Messier might not be totally healthy and that he didn't drive to the net in that play.
He had lots of room. He's not skating as well as I've seen Mark Messier skate. Here he sets up Randy Gregg, a nice setup, but normally Mark Messier would have charged the net on his backhand like Glenn Henderson did in the first period and try and bowl it over the goaltender.
The Edmonton Oilers attempting to become only the 7th team in NHL history to overcome a 3-1 deficit. Lead pass just a little too far for Dale Hawerchuk. Randy Gregg back after, icing against the Jets. 6:07 remaining in the third.
I'm sure John Muckler lost a breath or two or a heartbeat or two there. A 2-on-1, Hawerchuk and Ashton. Here you see John Muckler telling his defense to stay back, stay back. You saw the Winnipeg Jets get caught when the score was 3-3 and Winnipeg pinching in. Here Charlie Huddy unwisely took a chance. Hawerchuk and Ashton, 2-on-1, but the pass a little too far.
Well, John Muckler said after game 4 of the series when his team trailed 3-1, if we can get some breaks, we'll win this one. Well, they got a couple of good bounces, and they have played well since as well. Here's Hawerchuk. Hawerchuk That's the shot going. Again, it's blocked. This time by Charlie Huddy.
Frank Mooney one shift, Charlie Huddy the next shift, Steve Smith the next shift. All the Oiler defensemen are getting into the action.
And that's been a key tonight for the Edmonton Oilers in that their defensemen have blocked a lot of shots. 5:42 is the time left.
Just cool it, just cool it. There's $4 million to be won in Diet Pepsi's playoff pool.
Big box!
Now look here. Check under the caps of Pepsi and 7-Up products.
Check!
If, for instance, it says Calgary in 6 and they win the playoff final in 6, you could win $10,000, $10, or free Diet Pepsi. Now hit the ice, you guys. Play Diet Pepsi's $4 million playoff pool. Can you believe these guys?
Well, Bob Murdoch knows what it's like to be on the winning side in the 7th game at Northlands Coliseum. He was an assistant with the Edmonton Oilers, or with the Calgary Flames, I should say, in 1986 when they defeated the Edmonton Oilers by a score of 3-2. Game 7 here in this building.
I remember him out there shaking hands after that.
Taking his shot high over top of the Winnipeg net. Forcing a turnover. Gary Curry couldn't get a shot away. And now Thomas Steen starts away. Steen drops it to Newman, and long shot saved by Ranford. Held up. He's checked by Gary Curry. Gordon Donnelly pitches in from the point. He gets it to Elman. Elman out front. Shot save as Tempo Newman, and it moved way in. He was about 15 feet in front of Bill Ranford, and Ranford again stood his ground.
The Jets have to take some chances there. A great chance for Newman and Ranford with the enormous save.
McTavish steals it in the neutral zone. Don Cherry talked about McTavish at the start of our telecast tonight. He has just one assist in this playoff series, but he has played well throughout all 7 games. 4:20 left as the Oilers get it up. Dave Ellett, long shot on Ranford. Oh, he almost had that one stick to his legs. You saw him slap the glove in behind his pads, but he managed to hold it for a faceoff.
The story of the game, the play of Bill Ranford. Watch where Newman it is when he takes his shot. 10 feet out right in the middle, and there's Ranford. It's in perfect position, and you make the player hit you, and that's what Bill Ranford's doing.
Game 1, shots like that would have beaten Bill Ranford. For sure. As a matter of fact, shots from the blue line beat Bill Ranford in that game. But he has grown stronger as this series has progressed. It was the ghost of Grant Pure that had to be exercised before he could really play well in this building. McDermott knocks it down. He flips the shot. Goes back to the net. Here's another chance. Ellett moving in. Backhander knocked down in front of the net by one of the Oiler defensemen, and it's dumped out of the zone.
Randy Gregg that time blocking the shot. The Oilers just dumped it out.
The Jets have been putting some pressure on Edmonton in the final moments of this game. 2-line pass, offside. 3:31 remains.
Talk about the ghost of Grant Pure. You look back on that game where Dale Howardchuk had the breakaway with just over a minute left, and all the big saves that Grant Pure has made over the years. That save by Bill Ranford had to rank right up there.
You know, you look back in this series, the Winnipeg Jets could have won it in 4 straight. In the second game here, they led 2-0 going into the third. They lost in overtime. The Edmonton Oilers felt that they could have won the first 4 games. The series has been that close. The Jets held that 3-1 lead. We talked about the save Ranford made on Howardchuk in Game 5. With Edmonton leading 4-3. The breakaway in the final minute. Other saves that Ranford made in Game 6 in Winnipeg after the Jets had fought back to tie at 3. Particularly the saves that Ranford has made in tonight's game. Oh, what a glove save there as that puck deflected off an Oiler defenseman at the blue line.
It's baseball season, and watch this one playing the hot corner. Bill Ranford, Craig Muni just has a stick out and tips it. Watch Craig Muni at the blue line. Here's the long shot. And it was a hard one, not that hard. It hit Craig Muni's stick. Here it comes again. Watch Muni. Got a stick, hits a piece of it, jumps up, and what a save by Ranford. If you had to pick the stars right now, Bill Ranford might get star number 1 and star number 2. Here's a shot by Taglianetti, and watch it skip. It's Muni's stick down and then up again. Short hopper, fired over to first, the man's out.
3:17 remaining in the third. Bill Ranford breathes a sigh of relief. 27-24, the Jets have the edge in shots on goal. They haven't been able to beat Bill Ranford since Thomas Steen got one by him at the 9:21 mark of the first period.
I thought that might have been a sign of things to come. Bill Ranford didn't play that shot very well, but he sure has played well the rest of the way.
McTavish against Steen. For every key faceoff in the Edmonton zone, John Mucker has sent out Craig McTavish.
And Mark Messier, just in case McTavish gets waved out of the circle.
Bookberger had moved too quickly. Looks as though Steen is trying to get the draw back to the point, and Bookberger is going to try and race through that circle and go to Taglianetti. The Oilers dump it down the ice. This is an icing call against Edmonton. 3:09 remains in the game. Bill Ranford races over that puck. After the whistle had gone, came off the boards and was rolling towards the Edmonton net. Bill Ranford had skated over to the corner. Even with a whistle, he wasn't going to let anything get into that Edmonton goal.
You're trying to say goaltenders are superstitious? No way. Where's the rabbit foot anyway? 3:09 left. Bob Murdoch's looking at a 3-1 deficit. At what time would you consider pulling the goaltender?
I think he'll have to make that decision very soon. Steen and McTavish again. This time the draw goes to the boards to Muni. He can't get it out. Howard Chuck shovels it in front. Steen tried to deflect it. He could not. Helmut gets it. He looked for Howard Chuck, but it was broken up by Craig Muni. And the Oilers get it out of the zone. The Jets have been applying all sorts of pressure in the final minutes of this hockey game. But they can't get it past Bill Ranford. Here comes Tikkanen. He gets it over into the corner to Kevin Lowe. And right now, the Oilers are content to dump it down the ice, which they do for an icing call. 2:30 remains in the game.
This program is copyright and is strictly for the private use of our audience. Any reproduction, retransmission, distribution, or exhibition in whole or in part without the express written consent of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation and Molestar Communications is prohibited.
McTavish remains out there to take the face-off. This time he'll be going against Paul Fenton. Yari Curry, number 3 on the all-time list in playoff goals. One back of Mike Bossy's 85, 3-4 behind Wayne Gretzky's total of 88.
I'd pull the goalie here. We've got 150 seconds left. Face-off in the other zone. You're down 2 goals. You might not get another opportunity like this.
Well, there's been no move by Bob Murdoch to yank Beauregard so far. This time the Jets have 4 people up, just Teppo Newman and back, hoping that Fenton can get the draw to him. But McTavish wins another. side of the net. Bamford pounces on it. Another face-off in the Edmonton zone.
We talked about that kind of face-off to Coach John Muckler. Then McTavish wins it clean, and all the players are right up on the line, and it's the offside defenseman whose responsibility it is to go back to the corner and get that puck. The Jets jump through there and gain control.
Alpo Suonen looking at the clock, talking to Murdoch, and be at all surprised if they're discussing pulling Stefan Beauregard with 2:24 left.
I think I would. Again, they might not get another opportunity until maybe 5 seconds from now. But the way Craig McTavish is winning the draws, you really could use that extra attacker.
McTavish gets it again. I don't know what his success rate in the faceoff circle is tonight, but it has to be high. Here's Yari Curry going in. Scores! And that will do it. He is number 2 in the all-time career goal-scoring list at 85.
Right from the face-off, the outside defenseman, Steve Smith, he gets it. Chipped out by Mark Lamb, and watch Curry. He makes no mistake, picks an opening at Beauregard. The same as Mark Lamb, the scouting report on a butterfly goaltender. Get him on the way down. That's what Curry did and slid it through.
I was going to say just before Curry scored that it was a good thing the Jets hadn't pulled their goaltender, but it really doesn't make any difference.
The extra attacker might have been over on those boards.
Now the Jets are forced back into their own zone with 1:50 remaining. Howardchuk is checked. Paglianetti lost control of it. Jelena for the Oilers. Trying to get around Dave Ellett. The puck slides in back of the goal. 1:33 left in the game. It looks as though it's going to be Edmonton and Los Angeles. As a matter of fact, I think it's safe to say right now there is no doubt.
The replay of last year's first round match. Two totally different teams in attitude and players this year.
What a series this has been. You have to give the Winnipeg Jets a lot of credit. They led the series 3-1. Then they lost game 5. They were down 3-0 in their own building in game 6. Bounced back in the third to tie it at 3 before Yari Curry scored the winning goal. And then tonight they trailed 2-1 going into the third period. There's Tikanen's goal and another by Curry, and put it away. The Edmonton Oilers become the 7th team in Stanley Cup playoff history to recover from a 3-1 series deficit.
You look at the Winnipeg Jet team, and Bob Murdoch from the opening of the season said all we have to do is believe in ourselves. You look at some of the players, Bill Sykes, Doug Evans, all vet, all career years. Great compliment to their coaching staff.
15 seconds left. The fans are up applauding the Edmonton Oilers. And there's going to be a penalty, I believe, to Steve Smith. Maybe double minors being assessed. With now just 11 seconds left. You know, in game 1, there were empty seats at Northlands Coliseum. For this game tonight, the moment tickets went on sale, they were lined up, ready to purchase any available ducats, and it's a capacity crowd standing and applauding the Oilers in their comeback success against the Winnipeg Jets.
You look at the boys of the Edmonton Oilers, they were down 3-1. A lot of people had written them off, said the Battle of Alberta would be played in California and Manitoba. Part of it will be played in California, but one Alberta city still has a chance to repeat as a Stanley Cup champion.
John Muckler told me this morning that one of the big advantages he felt his team had was the experience in pressure games. The fact that there are 7 members of the Oilers who have been on all 4 Stanley Cup champions.
We looked at intangibles before this series started, and that's one where we gave the edge to the Oilers, and it showed here in Game 7.
So it will be Los Angeles and Edmonton, and Craig McTavish is the first over to congratulate Bill Ranford, and rightly so. As he was the GOAT in Game 1, he is the hero for the Oilers in Game 7. And a dejected Stefan Beauregard played well for the Winnipeg Jets. The entire Winnipeg Jet team played well. The Edmonton Oilers played well. Many say this is one of the best playoff series they have ever been involved in.
There's Bill Ranford. He'd probably be the MVP of this series. Big key saves, and that's what you need come playoff time. And the Edmonton Oilers got it after Game 1 from Bill Ranford.
It was a physical series, an extremely hard-hitting series, a fast skating affair, close checking, and the traditional handshake as the players line up. And the Edmonton Oilers know that they could just as easily have been the vanquished as the victors.
Could have gone either way in 4 games, just as well as 7 games. There's Bob Essensa. He had a great playoff series, and the Winnipeg Jets next year can look back, and that was a big question mark this year, their lack of experience in goal going into the playoffs. Both goaltenders under pressure situations performed well this year.
No one picked the Winnipeg Jets to even make the playoffs this year, let alone go this far and come this close to knocking off the Edmonton Oilers. Bill Ranford with a big game tonight, and in just a moment, our Molson 3-star selection.
Bench of the Jets, here are the 3 stars. Edmonton goaltender Bill Ranford, the first star. What a story he was in the playoffs, coming back from a rough first night outing to play brilliantly. Edmonton's Mark Lamb is the second star, and for the second time in this series, he has scored the game-winning goal. And the Oilers' Glenn Anderson, we were waiting to hear from him in this series. We did tonight, scored the opening goal of the game and set up the winner. Anderson is the third star as the Oilers beat the Jets 4-1 to win this series in the maximum 7 games. And now let's go to Ron McLean.
All right, meet a hero, the #1 star, Bill Ranford of the Edmonton Oilers. Bill, can you put this into words?
No, it's pretty tough. It's something I haven't really experienced. I went all the way with the Stanley Cup with the team once already, but I didn't get a chance to play, so it's a great feeling to play and be a part of it.
There were some big saves in this game, the Ashton breakaway. What about this one, though?
Well, this one was deflection. I was totally going the other way, and I just turned quick, and it went right in my glove.
How did you approach the series in Game 7 tonight, Bill?
Well, I approached it the way I approached the last basically 5 games. You know, it was such a tough game, the first one, and you know, it was a little frustrating. And you know, just to come back and battle, that was a big part of it.
That was the save, of course, that you caught Ashton where you had the breakaway. Bill, you've come a long way from Red Deer, and now this club will represent Alberta in round 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. How do you feel about the team as it's gelling in the chemistry?
Well, I think this is a big step forward. You know, we were down 3 games to 1, and very few teams have come back from that deficit. And we battled hard, played strong, and you know, we showed a lot of character.
Look ahead a bit to Los Angeles.
I don't want to look ahead right now. I just want to savor this one, and we'll think about it tomorrow.
And well, you should. Congratulations on a remarkable series.
Thank you.
Bill Ranford, #1 star this evening as the Edmonton Oilers eliminate the Winnipeg Jets and move on to meet the Kings in the Smythe Division Final. The final score this evening, the Oilers over the Winnipeg Jets handily. Molson Hockey Night in Canada on CBC returns in a moment.
This was the final step in the Oilers' spectacular comeback in this Smythe Division semifinal series. A 4-1 victory over the Jets in Game 7. The Oilers win the series 4-3. John Muckler, it was a long road back, and I know it's easy to say now that you never lost the faith. Let's just say that you were a tad worried when you trailed 3-1.
Well, even though we were losing 3-1, we had all kinds of confidence because we felt we were playing well, and we were playing well. We just felt we weren't getting any breaks, and the breaks started to change for us, and Winnipeg was a tough opponent, and they're a good hockey club. They finished 7th overall in the National Hockey League, and they got some fine hockey players, and they should be very proud of themselves.
Thought your big guns, Messier, Curry, Tikkanen, and others, came through for you in the last 3 games in particular. You seem to be able to shake some of the Jets' tight checking.
They did that. There's no question about that. And I think that really helped us also when we were down 3-1, that we had a lot of people in the dressing room who had been on a 4-time Stanley Cup champion and been to the Stanley Cup 5 times, along with some Canada Cup championships. And I think that held us together when we were down 3-1, and they came through very large for us and scored some important goals for us.
But was not the strongest point of this series for you the comeback of Oiler goaltender Bill Ranford, who couldn't have got arrested here in Winnipeg, or in Edmonton, I should say, after Game 1?
Well, I'm very happy for Billy. Billy did struggle in the first game, and he came back, and he fought hard, and he got confidence in himself, and I think he's over the hurdle now. I think he's arrived to be a star in the National Hockey League.
Calgary Flames are out, so they say everybody is a Stanley Cup contender. You must feel good about the Oilers' chances after this series.
Well, we do. We felt good about them going in, even when Calgary was in there. We always felt that we could beat Calgary, but now we're playing LA, and LA, along with their superstar Wayne Gretzky, will be a tough opponent, and we have 2 days to get ready for them and play them here on Wednesday.
Can you conceive of any series that you'll play in these 1990 Stanley Cup playoffs being as exciting as this one against the Jets was?
This was probably the toughest series that I've ever been associated with, being down 3-1 and playing against a team that was playing so well. And every game was a 1-goal deficit, and tonight we're just lucky to go ahead 4-1 and win the 7th game.
Thanks for your time, John. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
John Muckler, whose Oilers defeat the Winnipeg Jets 4-1 in the 7th and deciding game of this Smythe Division semifinal to advance to the second round of the 1990 Stanley Cup playoffs. Our Stanley Cup playoff coverage continues in just a moment. It was an outstanding series between the Jets and the Oilers, perhaps the best of the 8 in the first round. In the end, the experience of the Edmonton Oilers wins out. They become only the 7th team in Stanley Cup playoff history to recover from a 3-1 deficit and win a Stanley Cup playoff series. And now the Los Angeles Kings will fly here tomorrow to face the Oilers in the Smythe Division semifinal series beginning Wednesday night, and we'll have the telecast for you. Again, the final score here at Northlands Coliseum: Edmonton 4, Winnipeg 1. The Oilers take the series 4-3. Good night from Molson Hockey Night in Canada.
Molson Hockey Night in Canada on CBC was brought to you by Molson Canadian, what beer's all about. By Esso, makers of high-performance Esso Supreme Gasoline. And by Pepsi. It's got what it takes.
The head of CBC TV Network Sports is Alan Clark. The executive producer of Molson Hockey Night in Canada on CBC is Ron Harrison. Tonight's telecast from Edmonton was produced by Jim Huff and directed by Jim Marshall. Our isolation director was Buddy Stanton. And our thanks to the rest of the people whose names you see. They help make this telecast possible.